I said, no, compare the proportion of school shooters that are white versus violent criminals that are black, because that was the basis of the monologue.
I mean, Keir Starmer's not.
Well, he did make a call about this.
No, Keir Starmer is every bit as enslaved as Donald Trump is. It is illegal. It is a crime for which you can be arrested in Britain right now criticizing Israel.
I want to cut my off and scramble my brain with fucking fluoride. I'm gonna win because Netflix is worth $3 trillion. I can't believe the dollars are this high.
It's a society that hates God. It's a society where the family is completely deconstructed and destroyed. It's a society that hates Nazis but loves communism.
You're always confronted with the same stupid question, does Israel have a right to exist? Does Israel have a right to exist? The real question at this point is whether the rest of the world has an obligation to put an end to this.
Hey guys, how's it going? Matt from Foul Ball Productions here. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hope that you're doing well, because I'm doing phenomenally. Thank you very much. This is the 8th, is that right? The 8th episode of Right Wing Pulse. I've only done 8 of these episodes. Feels like I've done more. I guess it's only 8. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Thanks for joining me here tonight on our Sunday show, our wrap-up of all the different interesting right-wing conversations that happened in the prior week. We're going to be spending most of the time today on the JD Vance and Joe Rogan show, JD's appearance on the show of Joe Rogan. It was quite the talk across right-wing spaces, and I'm going to join in on that conversation because I've got a lot to say. And people are focusing on a lot of particular clips in that episode, and I think they're right to focus on them, but I'm going to focus on some other ones. I have some other clips pulled up, some of his stuff about why cities are majority Democrat, and a bunch of just these moderate platitudes that kind of play just a little bit to like a right-wing sensibility, but really aren't anything. And I think I was just reading a tweet from Basil, and he was saying how Trump and Vance are like leftists. They're like liberals that kind of are there to protect establishment power. And it's just, you hear them talk now, right? After a good year and a half of this awful administration, more than that now. And you see the results. You see the actual, like the made manifest of the Trumpism, whatever MAGA, it has arrived in its full form. And yeah, it's just all more of the same shit. Just how Obama was more Bush and Trump's just kind of more of all that, the same shit. But welcome. Let's see who's here. Frankie Beats. What's up, Frankie Beats? Slop? Hey, but good slop. Tasty. You want to eat up this goy slop. How you doing? Mitchell Black. Huge show. It's Hitch. Geo Gasser. What's cracking? ZebBoykin. Hello, good sir. The man who offered me this opportunity. And Smelly Balls. What's up, dog? Smelly Balls. In the chat. And sometimes my only engagement on X, and I thank you, sir. Nah, JD. Yes, indeed, JD. I had an interesting night last night. I went into New York City because I'm out here in New York State, but I reside in Texas mostly. But I'm out here for the summer, and I went down to New York State to see a friend of ours, to see a good pal, Rebecca Hargraves, and her co-host on the Reset, Cameron McGregor. They had an event. They had a big talk in downtown Manhattan. So I went and I attended, which was kind of funny because me and Rebecca kind of famously on this channel and on this show sort of beefed a few months ago now. I featured her on one of the episodes and gave her a good trashing for what I considered a ridiculously ignorant, just broad, not, just like, kind of take about Belzarian and Casey Putsch and her sort of objections to Nick Fuentes not supporting them. And then she, I guess, found out, because on the back end of YouTube, if someone's using your clips, you get an alert. So I guess she looks at that and noticed that I did, and then left a comment. We went back and forth, and since then it's become quite amicable. She said it again at the event last night that she does plan on doing the MFR podcast, my Tuesday show on Foul Ball Productions. Go subscribe over there if you haven't yet. She says she's going to do the show. Again, we'll see. However, as we were talking, she let me know that there was this event, and I just happened to be out in in New York when it was going on, and so I went, and it was cool. It was fun. I had a good time. It was weird because I was like, I'm just imagining, like I used to live in New York City when I went to college there, and I was like, I'm thinking of the city, the layout of the city, and like where is this going to be? And they didn't release it until the day of because they're worried about security, and I think that's cautious. I was worried about going. Like, am I on a list now? Is this going to follow me around forever? So I went. And it was downtown, which if you know anything about Manhattan, that's like where all the hip, cool, young people are. All the, yuppies and the posh folk are downtown. And I was like, okay, yeah. So like West Village, like, all right. It was at a place called Pub Key, which I guess is like a based bar, which I'm like, I didn't know. I guess it does make sense, right? Businesses do have political affiliation, right? Because you walk by a bar or a coffee shop and it's just draped in pride flags and, DSA merch. There's a place in the town where my mom lives. Almost doxed myself right there. And there's like this grocery store, this like Asian grocery store, and it's just decked out in DSA stuff and Free Palestine. And you're just like, okay, I mean, whatever, man. As long as you're fighting them on the left, I'll fight them on the right. It's cool with me. But it's just exhausting. But yeah, so anyway, I go into this bar. I don't know what to expect. It's just a bar. Not shitty or anything. It's a nice little bar. And I see behind the bars and get my first drink, there's like a soy jack, like plushie. I'm like, what? Where am I? Then I see all this Bitcoin stuff. And then I go into there's a back room where they did speeches, which I guess Trump has been there, and Thomas Massey. They've done events for both of them at this bar. I was like, okay, and there's like a Groiper frog, like above the stage. I was like, where the hell am I? What kind of bar is this? There's based bars in Manhattan. How does Antifa not know and to firebomb it? But anyway, so I met Rebecca in person. Lovely, no bad blood, nothing like that. Not that I expected that there would be, but met her, met Cameron. Met Konstantin von Hofmeyer, I think his name is. Now, that guy, I'm interested. I got his book. He very graciously gifted it to me. I didn't have any cash to buy it because who carries cash anymore? And I was like, I'll Venmo you. He's like, oh, no, I don't have any of that. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. And he's like, you can just have it. I was like, oh, shit. Okay, cool. Which was very cool. He signed it. And I think it's called The Fate of White America or something like that. Death of White America or Fate of White America. I think it's The Fate. And anyway, he gave a speech and he was sharp. I was like, oh, okay, this guy's got a good head on his shoulders. I'm very interested in him. Rebecca gave a speech, and then a few other guys did. A few other guys I didn't know. Adam of Mainstream Dissident, if you're familiar, he's done Atlas's show. He gave a speech. It was pretty good. I mean, I definitely got the feeling, with the exception of Konstantin, this was kind of most people's like first public speech. Even if you do talk on the internet for a while, it's different when there's people right in front of you and you have a prepared speech. That's a whole other skill set. But they did good. I thought they did good. The speeches were pretty solid. There was one guy who I'm like, who the fuck? What is this guy doing here? And he was wearing like a green, like patterned, not kimono, but like an Asian shirt. Like that kind of cut, like a Nehru, like a green. It's like silky Nehru shirt. I'm like, who the fuck? How did this guy get here? Who are you, sir? And he gave his speech all about what's that guy? H.P. Lovecraft. That was the whole speech. And I was like, what? This is so out of place. It was like, because I guess Lovecraft said racist stuff and back in the 1920s when he was writing. Who fucking cares? But so it had something to do with that. But it wasn't really in line with everyone else's speeches, which was about kind of like political identity and like white the future of white people in the world, the sort of global minority that's under siege in every nation where we reside, which is true, except for Poland, based ass Poland. But all these speeches, and then this guy's up there talking about Lovecraft, and I'm like, All right. They filmed the whole thing. I know Adam filmed the whole thing, so I don't know if it's going to be available. You know, I would say check out Constantine if you're not familiar. He was good, and I think like everyone else, it's like you kind of know if you watch their shows, you're going to get a similar idea. But it was cool. Met some interesting people. Met someone who's a lurker on this show. I won't dox him. I won't use his real name, but we met. He's like, "Hey, foul ball," and I was like, "Yeah, who are you?" I assumed it was, I don't know, but it was a guy, just a lurker, just a chatter, and it was like, "Oh fuck, what's up?" We talked for a while. He was fucking cool, and then there was like, you know, there's some people, dude. There's one guy, I'm talking to Constantine about the book or whatever, and this guy, and he's like, you know, this kind of guy, like he likes to walk with his chest out. He's a little guy, but he fills up a room, you know. He's got character, okay? And he's not ashamed, kind of like rockabilly, big sideburns, you know. And he goes, I'm actually a National Socialist. You know, like you could tell he loves to say that. Like it's gonna, whoa. Oh my God, how scandalous. How scandalous, really. Whoa. And, you know, I'm just like, oh my God. And then he's talking to Constantine and he just gives him like this like little like verbal pamphlet of, you know, what he believes. And did you know National Socialism actually came from Greece? And he's got this personality to like, you know, match it. And I'm just like, oh my God, bro. Like, okay, man, cool. So based, bro. Whoa. You take the based cake, man. Can we get a most based guy in the room award for this, dude? I was like, all right, brother. Did you know? And he's got all these facts for you. You probably didn't know this. Okie dokie. Okie dokie, big guy. You know, I think that's kind of like that. I was thinking about that guy and him talking, and I was thinking about like the Patriot Front and this stuff, and these kind of people who are like, we're doing stuff, you know, we're doing stuff. The political action, that's a big impact, you know. It's the most visual, most like, you know, central thing you can do. And I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, I disagree. But it's like a lot of that is LARP. Like, what? You're a Nazi? So what? You're going to make a Reich here in the liberal West? Dude, like, really? How? How, dude? Like, it's not even that, you know, it's like, whatever. I'm sure I could engage with the ideas, and I'm sure they're not all dumb or stupid, but you're just like, bro, like, I was like, I don't know if this is good that I go here. And he's just like, I'm a National Socialist, like, puffing his chest out, real proud of himself, like, I mean, I guess that's the room to do it in, but I just, you know, anyway, that was the event. I had a good time. I'm glad I went. It was fun. GeoGaster, I'm making an effort to carry cash. They brainwash us into not doing so. Actually, you're probably right. You know, because this way they could track every single financial transaction you ever make, which is kind of like an easy way to follow you around. Yeah, and you do it on your phone. You use Face ID. I mean, yeah, the Panopticon is in full effect. You're probably right. Probably should fucking barter. Should carry, you know, little gold pieces, shavings of gold, and weigh them on a scale. That's probably how we should do it. But Changing Oil, thank you for streaming. You're welcome, distrusted citizen. It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Enemy territory. You know, it wasn't hostile at all. It was quite pleasant. You know, it's like, look, I mean, let's be honest, right? We're all it's kind of nerdy to even go do that. To go like, pensively listen to a political talk, you know, like on your free time on a Saturday night in New York City. You know what I mean? Like, it's like one of the hippest, most happening cities in the world. And you're like, I'm going to go listen to a couple Nazis talk about their ideas and be like genuinely interested. That guy fucks. But no, it was cool. Did I visit the tunnels? I didn't see them. It's like they live, you know. It's like your eyes, you can't see them unless you have like the spectacles to observe. So I didn't see them. I couldn't think. I can't. My goy eyes, I'm not allowed to see. No, let's see. Junior Williams. I quit watching Joe Rogan because he doesn't push back or confront lies very similar to Sean Ryan. Look, here's the deal, right? I want to do a video about this, I think. Like Rogan comedy podcast, right? That whole genre, like we're done with that. And I don't mean that don't listen to them or like it's not relevant or whatever. It's just that they walk so we could run, right? And I don't even mean we necessarily about me. Let's just, Fuentes or whomever, right? This kind of robust, well-populated political sphere that we have now where you can get really great insight and commentary and stuff. And, I like to listen to Scott Horton, who's like a Mises libertarian, who I think is really incredible on foreign policy. Him and Nick, I think, are the best on foreign policy. And I listen to them, and, but I feel like that, at least for me or whatever, as far as like this type of conversation is concerned, it's sort of like I feel like we've graduated from them. The truth is, like, they're not all that good at politics, right? They're not all that insightful. Like, the things they don't know are kind of baffling if you hang out in political spheres a lot. You're sort of just like, geez, Louise, you know what I mean? Like, the 90s called Joe, you know what I mean? They want their fucking edgy position back. It's just kind of, but that's the point, right? Is like those guys, they filled a need and a void pause for when we didn't have an alternative, right? Like Rogan was the cutting edge when the intellectual dark web was in its heyday. Like that was big, that was important. A lot of us myself included, needed to engage with these ideas on a grand level. It was very important, right? Hearing the guys like just and it's so dated now, but to go after the woke, that was big. We needed that. I needed that. And when these guys would do really articulate takedowns, less articulate now that we know a little bit more, but at the time they were good. It was needed, but I feel like we've graduated, so I wouldn't go to Rogan for anything other than like, it's the platform. That's not to say like or dislike. That's irrelevant, right? He's not the guy. He's just the guy who is there, right? And like is the hard worker and is the type of guy who can talk to anybody and will talk to anybody. And by virtue of that, he facilitated a lot of really interesting conversations and put a lot of voices into the mainstream. But like, I don't look for his takes on anything except for UFC. I don't really, even comedy, all due respect. Like, it's like, yeah, but you're not funny. I know you've been doing it for a while and, you've made a big living at it, but like, yeesh, I couldn't watch the last special. I just I was like, oh, no. It's like watching gore.com or something. You're like, I can't look. It's too much. I think I watched it for maybe 5 minutes. I was like, actually, I'm okay. And I think too, the thing with these kids is a separate point, but I think like the comedians, like if you're doing a podcast, 5 days a week or however many days a week he does for like 3-4 hours, are you really desperate for more of his insight, even if it's the well-written stuff? I feel like comedians, like as much as podcasting, like I said, was revolutionary and was important, I also think it can kind of detract from the impact of their voice, right? If you're listening to their podcast a few days a week, you don't really need to hear their stand-up because you kind of already know everything they think, I feel like they should go away into the woods. It's like the way I think actors shouldn't talk ever, even in their private lives. No, but this shouldn't speak publicly at all because it destroys any kind of like mystique and intrigue that we might have for them. And same thing, I think comedians actually need to start talking less, even though they're very good at it. But that's kind of a separate point. The bigger point is just about the podcast. Like, I feel we've graduated. Thank you for all the hard work that y'all did. They genuinely did pave the way. They were the ones, the cowboys out there doing it when no one knew if it was anything. It was just a way for them to like talk to their audience and push their dates. And then it became like media. I mean, it became more influential, more widespread, more interesting, more compelling than anything other in that type of, in the media, really. The news just killed the news, killed talk radio. It is all that now. But I feel like the guys who pioneered it, like comedy it's just that's that's just entertainment, you know? Like I listen to Matt and Shane sometimes. I listen to the Boys Cast sometimes. But it's entertainment, right? I feel like like I said, they walk so we could run if you want to have political conversations. And now, I mean, the political sphere couldn't be more robust. I mean, how many voices? Yeah, there's so many. So that's just my little bit about Rogany. West Coast, best coast. That's pretty. Would you have to live in the West Coast? What's going on, Papa Cotton? How you doing? Listen to him so much in high school. I listened to a lot of Rogan too. I used to listen to like everything he did. I used to listen to like every single episode back in like 2012, maybe. You know, but then all the way through the 2010s, I don't remember when I lost him. Probably in the past few years. Just kind of like, you're like, all right, Joe. But no, he was a very important force, and I'm grateful for him. I won't talk shit about him, but I just feel like it's just we've evolved. You know, he's still going to exist. He's like an institution, but you know, no one's Did you hear what Rogan's take on that was? No. Was it another middle of the road, vaguely left leaning, kind of centrist kind of opinion about? Okay, yeah. I mean, that's what he does. Ryan D4Q. Exactly. Rogan presents as a guy who's curious about the world, which makes him endearing to listen to. If he was insecure, tried to play public intellectual like so many others, he'd be a nobody. That's a great point. That's actually a good point. I think like that was the thing. That's actually kind of what allows him to talk to so many different people, right? Is he can talk to like a physicist or like a MMA fighter or another comedian or, you know, Jordan Peterson, whatever. He's just curious and doesn't try to assert too much. Doesn't really go outside his station. You know, there are times when he would get like in his preachy kind of teacher thing because he's talking to so many interesting people and he wants to tell his guest about the other interesting people that he talked to. And you're like, oh, all right, Joe, how about your guest? Can we hear from him? You know, is that possible? He left East Coast to join the scene in San Francisco. Is that Rogan? My heart was broken when I understood I'm way more reliable. I'm way more reliable than Jordan Peterson. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Geogaster. Sam Hyde, based. Oh, I don't get it. I don't know. This is like a riddle. The comedy assassins. Come on. All right. We're not going to trash Rogan. That's not what we're going to do here all night. All right. We do have some things to talk about. Lord of the Ree keyed me into a video, and I did listen to it. But I realized I had already actually watched it. I kind of forgot. It was with Keith Knight. If you don't know Keith Knight, he's another one of these Mises libertarians. But he basically kind of disassembled every traditional argument. All right, it's playing now. Every traditional argument as to why the narratives around World War II are kind of bullshit, and it was like pretty remarkable stuff. I don't really think it works here on this show because I just feel like I just want to just listen to his arguments, and I couldn't really counter any of them because they require like a pretty intense, like well-read knowledge of World War II, like beyond, like definitely on levels with quotes and people. I'm just like, well, I've definitely never heard anyone say that. Holy shit, seriously? And so it's really interesting. I'll play a little bit of it here just because I think y'all should check it out, but there's really no reason for me to feature it on this show because there's no really way for me to do any commentary. So we'll watch a little bit of that. Then I think we're going to do some Academic Agent. He had a really good episode on the Matrix and us being trapped in it and ideology and all this type of shit. And it was pretty sick. So then we'll do the Rogan show. All right, I'll put this in the chat for you guys. If you want to watch it on your own, which I would recommend doing. It. I think this is a good, at least for Keith's monologue. Honestly, Keith opens this episode and talks for like 20 minutes straight. And so I would recommend just checking that out because it was such a precise and well-studied takedown of the traditional World War II narrative. And this guy, Jim Holland on the right, he had no answer at all. You know, like basically this guy does this huge takedown and he destroys all these narratives and kind of, constructs this understanding of like FDR kind of being adjacent to a tyrant and Churchill unnecessarily starting these wars kind of on false premises and all the ways that they did that. And Jim's like, yeah, but like the Holocaust. And you're like, okay, fucking solid, dude. Good one. Yeah, I mean, I went to middle school as well. Okay. Geogasser, meaning Jordan sold us on the be an upstanding man while being an addict maniac. Yeah, look, it's for me, it was kind of more how he handled it, right? That was the thing that bugged me, was that Jordan Peterson he's sort of right. Joey Oliver, Right Wing Coalition, pointed this out really well in his video about Jordan Peterson, where he kind of he depicts himself as uniquely afflicted. Like, it's just the thing that's going on with him is so much worse, and specifically so much more intense and obscured. He needs to travel to Russia for, his own, and you're just kind of I don't know. This all kind of smacks of narcissism to me. And that was the thing I think that we all lost him, was he didn't take his personal ownership of stuff. He didn't own his bullshit and air it out honestly. He just he was just, you're okay, Jordan, you're like a diva about all this. And, you didn't even have a take on COVID, and you're like a fucking pro-Israel, shill. Oof. Okay, bro. Okay.
Earlier is World War II, Hitler was bad, Allied forces were good. Good had to fight bad. They had no choice. Appeasement did not work. And, Hitler lost. Europe became a better place. That's what I learned as I was a kid, and that was it, full stop. But now, a lot of questions are being asked about different aspects of the war. So Keith, I'd love you to kick it off for us.
To briefly summarize the anti-war position, first, the costs of war are extremely high. 2, the costs are often imposed on unwilling participants. 3, the outcomes of warfare are highly uncertain. And 4, the primary decision makers, politicians, face little incentive to produce beneficial results, since they often have access to the involuntary labor of conscripts and can fund their operations involuntarily through taxation. With these,
it's really funny because he goes on for a while. It's seriously, I think, a good 15 minutes, 20 minutes where he just slaughters every single narrative. And I don't think this guy, Jim, whom I don't know, I don't think he had any idea what he was in for. I don't think he realized that this was a really intellectual, well-researched debate. I think he thought he's just going to show up, do the kind of standard line about World War II and Hitler being bad and, existential threat and all that type of shit, Holocaust, blah, blah. And then he just was a deer in headlights. I wish I timestamped it, because at the end he's just oh, okay, that was a lot.
General metrics in mind, I want to make the case that Britain and the United States should not have entered into the Second World War. Consider this war from the German point of view. Their eastern enemy, the Bolshevik regime, kept engaging in acts of aggression. In 1917, they staged a coup against Tsar Nicholas II and conquered Russia, leading to a 4-year civil war, killing millions of people. In 1918, the Bolsheviks assisted Rosa Luxemburg in the November Revolution, attempting to annex Germany. In 1919,
it is kind of funny if you think about it, right? The post-war consensus is sort of global liberalism thing of the 20th century, right? It's so much of the rhetoric, right, is kind of how dangerous, and so much of the American foreign policy is particularly focused on not really, I don't want to say anti-revolutionary, because it's actually not really true, because we would fund and facilitate a lot of revolutions. But the idea was these sort of these revolutions are bad, they're dangerous, they're destructive, especially, these communist ones, right? But if you really think about it, especially in Europe, the entire operation was just one gigantic revolution to completely change the face of the West. I mean, especially World War I and II together. Right, you go from all these monarchies to millions of dead Europeans and a whole new world order that is allergic to white identity. That's its number one threat, and it did that over 25, 40, 30 years. You know what I mean? What a transfer! That's a revolution. You don't really think of it in those terms, but the World War I to post-World War II, that is a revolution. The entire world and the seat of power in the West forever changed, and new order installed. That's a revolution. Oh, here we go. Yeah, you did. You listened to the whole thing. Yeah, you know, it's funny, Ree. I was just saying, I actually had listened to this when it came out, and I had forgotten. It's still really good and worth listening to. But it's funny because it's the opening monologue is what it's all about, and then it's just this guy, the other guy, Jim Holland, just floundering, trying to make any kind of an argument for the status quo. Look, there might even be a good status quo argument out there, but you could just tell that Keith Knight's just way more educated on the subject, and they're just mismatched. He's just running circles around him. The other guy's just like, but Hitler and the Holocaust, he had like nothing. M the Goat, Jordan Bible series brought some online former atheists to the church in 2010s. Yeah, I think that was probably the start. That had a big influence on this sort of like Christian return to church thing that's going on. I think even just engaging with the ideas on a mass level, which is something like I was watching today. I thought about covering it, but it didn't really seem like anything I could comment on. Count Dankula did a video about Mary, like Mother of Jesus. And it was really interesting. And they just kind of talked about, he talked about like the history, the Bible, the sort of like appearances that people have seen of her, and you're just like, wow, like that's just, I feel like we're in a different place with Christianity. Like I feel like that would have been an obscure or niche thing to put on YouTube like just a few years ago, and now it's center stage, and it's kind of right alongside, it's right there next to every other political or cultural conversation. It's not something that's relegated, you don't talk about religion, or it's kind of almost seen as weird. Like I feel like it's just part of it now. It's just out there. And a lot of that had to do with Jordan Peterson kind of getting back into that a little bit. Like I said, he betrayed a lot of it, but like I said, a lot of these guys walk so we could run,
Bolsheviks invaded Poland, killing hundreds of thousands of people, and set up a puppet state in Hungary with Bela Kun. In 1920, the Bolsheviks occupied Azerbaijan, the same year they occupied Armenia. In 1921, they invaded Georgia. In 1932, they starved millions of Ukrainians to death in the Holodomor. In 1934, the Bolsheviks invaded Xinjiang, China. In 1935, Germany found themselves encircled by the Franco-Soviet Pact, followed by the Czech-Soviet Treaty of Alliance. In 1939, the Bolsheviks invaded Finland and Poland, and by 1940, the Bolshevik regime occupied and annexed Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Romania, Bessarabia, and Bukovina. By 1941, the German National Socialists fought the Russian International Socialists under the guise of opposing the Bolshevik International Worldwide Conspiracy, as Hitler called it in June 22nd.
It wouldn't even surprise me if the guy on the right, Jim Holland, like doesn't even know a lot of this stuff. Like I just feel like he's so outclassed. Like I'm projecting that. I'm letting you know I'm saying that because we haven't seen him talk yet. But I did watch it, and he was just like, he had nothing. He was just like deer in headlights. And I'd like listen to him list off all these different things as sort of like the existential threat that was to Germany. And I don't even really think he mentions the Weimar very much. It's just all these different socialist revolutions that are going on around Germany at the time. And he just kind of creates like a completely different perspective that, like, unless you're really studied on that, is going to be kind of hard to push back on from the consensus perspective. Because what's the consensus perspective? One day they all went crazy for no reason. Like that's just, and they're back to normal now. Everything's fine. They weren't even really all that crazy at World War I, but World War II, boy, they went nuts. We don't know why. We have no answers as to why, but they were really bad and doing very bad things. And that's over. And no more nationalism or white identity. Nothing to see here.
1941 in his speech. Churchill understood the Soviet menace, saying in a 1920 article titled Zionism versus Bolshevism that Bolshevism is a system of morals and philosophy as malevolent as Christianity was benevolent, and a worldwide conspiracy for
fucking based. That's a great quote, huh? Fucking based.
As Christianity was benevolent. System of morals and philosophy versus Bolshevism, that Bolshevism is a system of morals and philosophy as malevolent as Christianity was benevolent.
Fucking based as hell, right? I know it's like, I guess it's a little chud to just like fucking commies, but it's like so true. So true, dude. Like, as malevolent as Christianity was benevolent. You're like, yes, dude, yes, it is the inversion fucking based.
And a worldwide conspiracy for the overthrow of civilization and for the reconstitution of society on the basis of arrested development and envious malevolence and impossible equality. On Germany's western border, they had the British Empire, which comprised nearly 1/4 of the world's land surface and more than 1/4 of the world's population. Yet it is Germany who is accused of wanting to.
Who would have ever thought it? I mean, I guess I wouldn't have. Maybe someone else would have. Maybe people who know them better. But I wouldn't have imagined that the libertarians would be the one making the strongest argument for at least comprehensive understanding of Nazi Germany's like position. You know, like that's just not something I really would expect to come out of the libertarians, man. But he just like articulates the hell out of it, makes it really good to the point where you're like, yeah, I mean, what were they really supposed to do?
Take over the world. In the case of Japan,
May I say one bit further about that? That I think is one of the most interesting and important, like kind of healthy discussions that has really picked up over the past few years is this critical, and I know it's existed for a long time, but I feel like it's gotten more mainstream, this sort of critical re-examination of World War II, its causes, its implications. I think like that, because, you know, the post-war consensus, I feel like, is pretty much universally rejected at this point. The boomers probably are still clinging on to it. The establishment has to, because that's the entire basis of their power and their position and their authority. But everyone else, I just kind of feel like we're looking at that like, yeah, a lot of that was all bullshit, huh? And it was like it needed to be fortified with so much propaganda. And if that's the case, right, like then these aren't self-evident truths, and just like, and then, you know, it gets deconstructed and people take it further and further back. And now it's like the war itself is being very critically analyzed in a way that's like, it broke containment, you know, doesn't begin to describe it. It's like Daryl Cooper's doing that whole podcast series of, you know, the war from the Germans' perspective, excuse me, in a really brutal and like kind of firsthand way, the way he tells his stories. Obviously not that he was there, but he tells the stories from the people who were there. And you know, when he said that thing on Tucker, like, what was that, 2 years ago now? And everyone had their meltdown about, oh, you know, disrupting the post-war consensus. And that's not even, you know, no one even, that's not getting any press. That's not playing. No one really is outraged by that. They're kind of like, yeah, we can have a conversation about this, actually. You know, it was 80 years ago. We're actually allowed to critique it and see what was valid and what was invalid. And you know, it's like they still try to stick you on the, you say 6 million, you say 6 million. But other than that, there's just nothing really. They don't really have control of that narrative anymore. And more people are just like taking a real, much more critical look at it. And it's impressive, you know. I think sometimes it's like we do. I mean, you know, you don't really know when everyone got red pilled, but I feel like if you're taking like the tenor of the conversations, comment sections, me engaging with you guys in chat and stuff like that, it is remarkable the change from like when I first got online to start talking about this stuff, like in the few years prior to that, like a few years before that was like the intellectual dark web, so like 2018, right? And now where we are, like all the narratives about World War II were bullshit. Like that's not a long period of time for us to just deconstruct the mythology of our civilization and to mean it and to have like really good arguments for that. Like that's a big swing. You know, the conversation has changed a lot in the past 5-7 years. It's pretty amazing.
Chinese communists had been fighting the Chinese nationalists since 1927. America fought a war 6,000 miles away in Korea and 8,000 miles away in Vietnam under the guise of stopping the spread of communism. We can see why Japan, separated from China only by the East China Sea, saw a Chinese communist victory as a potential security threat. Just as you can't rationally analyze a trial only by looking at
Lord of the Ree, I can't believe, I used to think the Holly didn't happen. Now I can't believe it only happened once. Okay, so I know Like Nick Fuentes always says, don't try to red pill your parents, but I am doing it slowly, incrementally. I'm getting my mom there. The other day, she sarcastically referred to herself as a groiper. I was just like, well, yeah, no, I'm like I was explaining a lot of this stuff because I've been, red pilling her gradually. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm like a groiper. And she goes, I guess I am too. Like, she's like, she's like getting on board. And then I started to approach the Holly conversation. And I was like, yeah, but you're not ready for this. You're not ready for this conversation. She's like, you're right. I'm not. I don't need this. It's hard to believe your entire worldview is false. I don't know. I know a lot of you guys are a little bit older, like, than a lot of the Gen Z guys. Like, you're like Zennials, like in your 30s or whatever. But I'm 41. A lot of those pills were hard to swallow, even for me, right? It's like, your brain's, the foundations of who you think you are pretty well established by my age. You know what I mean? So you start messing with those things, those core beliefs that you have, and it's kind of like, it's destabilizing. It's confused. It's like unsettling. I can't imagine what it's like if you're 70. Everything you were raised to believe was a lie. Todd Baker. Hello, Todd Baker. Who knows what really happened with both world wars? Yeah. I mean, there's, the thing is, like, there's so much coverage of it. There's so much to read about it. But I think that's actually, also the other problem is there is so much to read about it that it's kind of like hard to get a good grasp on it. That's why I like listening to Daryl Cooper. That's why I think he is an important historian, because he reads it all. He reads every goddamn thing he can get his hands on these subjects and then tells a story about it. And you're like, okay, I mean, it's probably, obviously that's not a replacement for doing your own investigation, your own research, your own reading. But it's a very good place to start for sure.
At the prosecution's arguments, you must consider the defense. So too should we consider the point of view of the Axis powers. This nuanced view at least takes us away from the thesis that the Germans were pure, unprovoked evildoers, hell-bent on conquering the world, thus could not be negotiated with and must be bombed into unconditional surrender. Onto the case of the British Empire. Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain and French President Albert Lebrun declared war on Germany September 3, 1939, with the explicit reasoning that Germany violated Polish independence on September 1st when Hitler invaded Poland, seeking to reunite Danzig with Germany, a town that was 95% German and was part of the Kingdom of Prussia as far back as 1793. 2 weeks later, on September 17th,
Okay, so I'm going to stop it here. I think you guys, I would recommend checking it out. I put the link in the chat, so watch it on your own. It's really good. But I was just scrubbing, and I think I can find this guy's response. Like when Keith is finally done with like this incredible monologue, just deconstructing the entire narrative from every perspective with names and dates and quotes and details. And this guy, and then this guy's response.
The second.
Jim,
Goodness.
I think we'll give you 15 minutes. There's a lot of points made. I like the nuanced take on the war. So I'll give you the same time as Keith, 15 minutes to respond to as many points as you can, but also trying to break it down for the audience to be able to separate all the various arguments being made, because there's a lot of them made at once, just for people that are not too deep into the history of the war. But the mic is yours for 15 minutes, and then we can have it back and forth. Jim.
Right. Well, I mean, Keith is coming at this from an obviously a very different perspective. What hasn't been noted there is obviously the oppression of the Nazi regime, the ideology.
He's got nothing. Keith just did a 15-minute dissertation on all these different details and dates and all this stuff, and he's got zero rebuttal. He's like, yeah, but the Nazis were bad, though. But they were evil. They were oppressive. You're like, wow, okay. Maybe this isn't a well-matched debate.
The Holocaust, of course.
Of course. I mean, how could we forget? How could I almost didn't think about it for 45 seconds today. So thank you. There was almost a few hours in my life where I wasn't reminded of that. So good thing you stepped in there to prevent that from happening. Oh my. Yeah. So it basically, there's no reason to show anything more of him just floundering, but he had dick. He had nothing. I mean, it's like with all that, there wasn't one point you could have rebutted or could recontextualize. Like, he goes on for like 15 minutes. Like, you didn't write down one note about, hey, but what you said about the Bolsheviks in fucking, Belarus or whatever. He had nothing on any of that. So you're like, okay, all right, well, look, there might be a better argument, and it's like, just because you don't have the answer doesn't mean there isn't an answer, but it looks bad, dog. You're the guy. That's what happened. I mean, I remember was that last year or 2 years ago? I don't remember now. I think may have been early last year. Yeah, it might have been early last year when Dave Smith went on Rogan with Douglas Murray. And you're just watching Murray. It's just like, you have nothing? You don't even have, like, Hasbara? Like, you got nothing. No arguments, no perspective, nothing? Like, you're just like, oh, well, this guy, and you say Wolfowitz like it's bad thing. And it's just like, this is it? This is the entirety of the pro-Israeli argument? Is that it's beneath us to make an argument? Well, I got to be honest. I don't find that particularly compelling. Yeah, it is amazing. I think it's Smith that Dave Smith talks about this a lot. Someone left a comment on the older video. It's like, this guy's a moron. Go ahead and trust the Jays. Thank you for your contribution, sir. I think it was Dave Smith had said about like the online political commentators, debaters like himself and stuff, is that like they had been sharpening their knives, so to speak, in like the brutal gauntlet of online conversation where anyone can critique what you're saying, anyone can try, disrupt. You have to battle so many different forces to like get what you're saying out there, and it's like it's this grueling process to sharpen your weapons. And these guys who live in institutional power they're completely unarmed for that. It's like a guy who's been training MMA, kickboxing and jujitsu and wrestling and then he gets it. The guy wants to arm wrestle and you're like, no, we're here to fucking MMA. And he's like, no, I only do arm wrestling. Like you're not even allowed to do all that. And he's like, I can, watch me. And then whips his ass and he's just like, he didn't even win. You're like, this is it. This is all. That's it. What's going on? This is the institutional power. This is the best. You guys have been holding on to the narrative and the conversation for my entire life, and this is all you got? Really? We need better tyrants. Like, this is bullshit. I demand a better quality tyrant. Come on. Oh, my God. You've never been? Yeah, oh, boy. I haven't seen him around. I have not seen Doug Murray in a while. Which was like, it's just amazing how much has changed because he had like credibility at the time. He was good on like the British immigration situation. Like he had like some credibility going into that. And you're like, oh, okay. Like what's Doug Murray got to say about this? And you're like, oh, nothing. Not a thing. Yeah, well, you've never been to the crossing points, so you can't even weigh in on this. Like, shut the fuck up. Really? Like, what does that even fucking mean? Generals, like, command armies without ever having stepped on the battlefield. Like, well, you can't weigh in on that battle. You weren't there. It's like, what is happening? All right, so we'll do this for a little bit because maybe I should save. Maybe we'll get bored. Oh, yeah, let's do Rogan now. Let's do the JD on Rogan. I have the academic agent too. I'm going to keep it in my back pocket in case this gets boring or redundant, which is completely a possibility. But I pulled a bunch of timestamps. I didn't watch the whole thing. I think I watched about 2 hours of it, maybe an hour 45 of the thing. But we definitely have enough to talk about. And towards the end of it, or towards the middle, like there's all these clips that have been going around about his comments on Israel and the Iran war. We are going to get there. But there's some other stuff I wanted to point out first. Let's go to this clip where, I've admitted that, I got red pilled last week type of thing. You know what I mean? Like I was a plan truster. I thought it was all going to work out. I thought we won. I was like, yes, dude. we are here. Thank God. You know, that was so close. Because if Kamala got in there, man, we wouldn't even have a country anymore. You know. And I just slowly watched it explode in my face. Pause. Jesus Christ, that was bad. Very bad phrasing. But I watched the demise of MAGA and like my hopes and dreams in this administration, right? And when JD was doing the podcast rounds back then, he was doing like Theo Vaughn and stuff like that. I was kind of like, who is this guy? And I was like, oh, okay. You know, he is kind of relatable. Like, you know, I'm buying the rhetoric like a fucking idiot. And I remember him saying something about like football, like being a fan of football and like what actually most of the time, what a drain it is on you instead of like, you know, you get the victories once in a while, but most of the time it's just you're miserable every other year when they lose. And I'm like, I totally identify with that. Oh, this guy's okay. He's pretty normal, you know. But now that we've come through to the other side and we see the truth of who he is. And now that I know everything about all his connections with like Peter Thiel, and he's just this completely false, not real. He's an entity. He's a research, like market research focus group, fake, empty monster of the tech. He was a tech Frankenstein. Now when I see him, I'm just like, this guy, he sucks. He's just like, his charisma is it's all fake. It's all he's trying to be the relatable guy. You know, he's putting it on. You're like, oh God, I'm embarrassed I ever fell for that. But let's start off with this clip here.
Actually based on getting reactions.
Correct.
And there's a lot of people that are just, for a lack of a better term, they're not real. Their reactions are performative. Like a lot of what they're doing is just trying to comment on things and get clicks and likes and views. And social media has ruined discourse in a lot of ways because people are not having like real conversations about things. They're reacting to things on Instagram and Twitter.
Yes.
And
this is what I mean. Like Rogan's, you know, like just boomer takes I get. It's like social media ruined discourse. It's like when people try to say like, you know, it's like, oh, social media is a reason why like women, like why relationships aren't healthy. You're like, it's social media. Is that what it was? Or was it like conditioning women to be like feminists who hate men and hate their own country and think the way they need to interact with it is in a revolutionary fashion? Do you think that had more of an impact, or was it social media? Which do you think is the actual real reason? It's just, you know, it's such bullshit. And he's just like, it ruined discourse. It's like, bro, the discourse, like we'd all be fucking red pilled on Israel if it wasn't for social media. Are you kidding me? That's how this stuff gets out. That's how people talk about this stuff. That's why Larry Ellison bought TikTok, so that like that couldn't be out there. Social media is the vehicle. Yeah, it means there's going to be toxicity and people are hostile or whatever. Yeah, there's secondary order effects. There's secondary consequences to that. But like, it ruined the discourse. It is the discourse. It created the discourse. It's how this is all. Why do you think they invest so much energy into controlling them? Why do you think Elon had to buy X to like get one legitimately free speech platform out there? Is because that's where the discourse happens. That's how we're able to be on top of the administration when they get out bullshit, right? It's like, you know, when I was following the Iran war so like super closely, it would be like Trump would say something, and then I'd be like, okay, go over to drop site. What did the Iranians actually say? And then you get like a real sense of it. And it's like, without that, we'd just trust the fucking news? Yeah, no thanks, actually.
You know, they look at an opportunity like that, like, oh, I found a gold nugget. You know, like, this is going to give me money, or this is going to give me attention. This is going to I can't wait to have a take on that.
Well, that's exactly right. So my response to that.
Do you hear that laugh, that fake laugh, that agreeable? I'm just a normal guy. That's exactly right. Joe, you're such a card. Ugh.
Wait to have a take on that.
Well, that's exactly right. So
he can barely contain himself. He can barely contain how amused he is by that witticism, that insight that Joe just gave him. Oy.
Response to that is so many things is like, oh, he was being funny, he was being outrageous, and I just move on with my life. What I find very interesting is the people who say, you know, oh, that was a joke. Like when Kill Tony, do you remember he told like the joke heard around the world in Madison Square Garden during the
Boomer. When Kill Tony, that's not his name. Like, that's like calling Rogan like the Rogan Experience. You know, when the Rogan Experience, it's like, no, that's his show, you idiot. He's Tony Hinchcliffe. When Kill Tony. Oh, it's like when my dad would say Tupac when I was a kid. Just like, if you cornball. Geogasser. They chose a token wife for him to soften the left, and it backfired on them. They could not predict our hatred of immigrants. You know, that's an interesting take. I mean, you're probably right to a degree, but I think the token wife is part of it. I think it's the way to soften us, the chuds, the right wingers, on white identitarianism and sort of ethnic enclaves, like European ethnic enclaves. That's what I think, actually. I think that was one of those plays. It's like a political marriage to like create that image. And I think it's true. I have a clip here about, yeah, you know what? We'll just go to the next clip. We can laugh at him for being a cornball and saying kill Tony like a dork. But this, I'll back that up with this clip as to why I think that is who that's actually for. It's kind of like, remember when they launched it too early? When remember Sam Hyde did that famous video, Dear Elon, and he just did that kind of hour monologue. I took a clip from that for the intro of this show. But it was this whole thing about, you know, we're not an economic zone, we're not interchangeable. Like, remember when Elon and Vivek did that thing about like Americans are lazy, and they pushed the new software update too soon. Like they thought that we would be amenable to that, and they didn't realize that, like, you know, we actually didn't, like, we were already having like this strong like white identity, like it was, they just didn't read the situation right, you know, and they pushed it out. I think that's what this is all. That's what the JD Vance is supposed to do. I think it's supposed to calm the chuds down so that we all accept like globalism, but it's based, bro. It's cool because I go on Rogan and I like UFC. I'm like the based globalist. I think that's what that was the play of this guy and their kind of next step, because they have zero interest in actually doing mass deportations, zero interest to actually enabling any kind of white identity or even the concerns of native, you know, us Americans. They're like, no, we're going to keep the immigrants here. We're going to profit from their labor, and we're just going to pivot on the messaging to placate the chuds. We can do that. They're stupid.
Part of America is actually more like a third world country than anything that I thought we'd ever become.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Why is it that large population centers, like places like Los Angeles and New York, are almost always run by the Democrats?
Yeah.
Like, what is it about, first of all, what happened the last election in Los Angeles, the just the primary?
Astrobot, well, we know about Jude Vance. He ain't getting any real votes without the Jews putting him in office, and that ain't happening, by the way. They were not thrilled with this interview and his kind of, because like I said, he's trying to placate the chuds, and he knows that that the whole goddamn country, really, but like, you know, men are growingly, you know, right-wing men whom he needs to get him elected president are growingly very intolerant of Israel's influence and their war, obviously, because like a lot of them have like a vested mortal interest in them not having power, right? Because they could get fucking drafted to go fight a war for them, not to mention all the other consequences of their leadership. But that one, you know, it's going to strike a chord with a lot of people. You know, it's funny because they did that meme. If you remember, there was a great meme going around before Trump got elected of Call of Duty, of all these guys on a helicopter. You know, from, you know, like, and it's like me and the boys, because Taylor Swift told all the girls to vote for Kamala. But like the truth of the matter is like, no, actually Trump was the guy, the war president, right? And it's like, so what I mean to say, I'm like babbling a little bit, but it's like, what I mean to say is like, they don't like, because he knows he still has to placate to us, and he does that, but he doesn't do it like, he's not Fuentes, like he doesn't go in on it. He just kind of says like, yeah, well, you know, maybe they just need to remember that we make their weapons, and this kind of like very gentle pushback, but they hate that. And then we're not buying it either because we're like, that's bullshit. Like, that's not appropriately America first. Like, you guys said this, America first, America first. That was like part of your whole pitch. And, it sure doesn't look like that from where I'm sitting. So you can't give me this half-ass bullshit, this fence-riding response to Israel. It's gotta be all or nothing. But this whole thing,
I think was
crazy.
So super sus.
Yes,
and
it
here's
is.
why it's super sus. Not just super sus that Spencer Pratt, who was in second place, got overtaken by Nithya Raman in the mail-in ballots, but that the mail-in ballots also passed a tax hike. The people voted to pay more taxes.
Yep.
In a state where you have the highest tax.
You know what's funny? Lord of the Ray, you said we need a Rupert Lowe and they give us a fake gay Palantir Vance. Did you happen to catch him? Did you see Rupert Lowe on Rogan? I think he's probably the best option for England, but I don't know. I didn't like a lot of his answers. I didn't like a lot of his explanations. Like, he didn't have like a real understanding of like the Great Replacement. Like, he didn't get it. He's just like, I think they just hate British culture. And it's like, yeah, and German and French and American and Australian and anywhere fucking Rome lives. Yeah, they hate that. But it's like, that's only even one part of it too. Like, there's a huge economic incentive to get cheap labor and to replace the populations that have been systematically destroyed from this multi-headed anti-Western hydra. You don't get that? Like, is that strategic that you're not saying that? Or do you genuinely not understand why the West is being attacked and by whom and for what goals? Because if you don't get it, how can you fight against it? I thought that was a little concerning. Oh, you thought it was great, huh? I guess I'd have to, I don't know. I guess I'd have to go back and watch. But I was like, that's not good enough. That is not good enough at all. Astrobot, watch how the Mockingbird alternative media like Benny Boy Johnson started pushing based Marco Jubio as the media new darling if Palantir Vance doesn't work it out. Yeah, well, that's already, they've already done that. They're already pushing it. All the Zionist kind of shills and that sort of, Jewish online presence, like Zionist presence, is already pushing Rubio because he's a good guy. And Vance has enough understanding to know that we don't want to hear that. And we're not going to turn out in droves to vote for that. But he can't go against the donors, so he's trying to satisfy both parties, but he's ultimately satisfying nobody and just getting trashed. And because, like, look, this guy just comes out of nowhere. There's no, like, emotional attachment to him, right? Obviously the Trump administration is what it is, but there was emotional attachment to Trump. Right, he'd been the president for 4 years. The entire time, they did absolutely nothing but try to sabotage him at every step of the way. No matter what it was, no matter whether it was diplomacy, he was soft. If it was military, he was too hard. If it was domestic, he's a Nazi. There was literally nothing he could do. And then the whole, he gets arrested, he gets deplatformed, he gets shot. Everyone lives through all of that. There's like this emotional attachment to him. Yeah, that we've all mostly relinquished, to be honest. But that does not exist for Vance. We don't have that. We don't know you. We haven't been like hanging out with you for years and like believing in you. You're just the guy who kind of just appeared on the scene, 2 years ago for a lot of us. So it's just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. What have you done for me lately? We're not going to fucking fight for you. So.
Texas. That's right.
They're like, we don't pay enough. That is insane. Then when you have direct evidence that they were recruiting homeless people.
That's right.
And they were getting homeless people and giving them cigarettes and cash. There's evidence of this. To use their address and mail in ballots.
Yeah, I would be the Californian Joe who wakes up in the morning and says, you know what? I'm going to go and vote for higher taxes.
I don't pay enough.
I don't pay enough taxes.
I feel like we could fix this if I just pay 5%
more taxes. The crazy.
This is kind of what I mean a little bit about Rogan, right? It's like, yeah, obviously, nigga. You know what I mean? Like, you're kind of like taxes. It's like, dude, yes, but like, no. Like that's just the consequence of the problem. That's not the problem. Like that's obviously, yeah, but like, he's, but it is interesting. Like the more I've gotten really like much more serious about politics and my study of it, and my knowledge base has grown tremendously. When I listen to kind of people who are not like that tapped in, I'm just like, oh God, like that is so not even close. Culture dweeb. I tried watching Hillbilly Elegy and it was lame, lol. Well, you can also see, right, just by evidence that movie exists, that's even a thing with like big movie stars in it, that he was not like a based right-wing guy. He pivoted into that because it became popular. But if he had enough, like if he existed, right, writes a book, is a public figure, and there was even a whiff of him being right-wing when that came out, because that was during Trump 1, I believe. Like there'd be no chance they would distance themselves. Like that's where, it's because of all that woke shit. I was out in Hollywood when Trump got elected, and the hit was an impact on them. And that's why we've gotten all this stuff. That's why I've gotten all this terrible media, is because like it was no, we have to defeat this guy, and by that we all whiteness needs to be destroyed and their culture needs to be destroyed, and it all just needs to be pulled up from the roots. And that's where all that came from. So if there was a whiff at that time that he was anywhere adjacent to right wing, that ain't happening. They're not making that. That's how you know this guy's a fraud, dude. He's not real. Released 2020. Yeah. What else came out in 2020? Like the fucking sequel to Captain Marvel. You know what I mean? Like the Black Widow movie, like the wokest, gayest, girl power bullshit. So no, he was never like a right-wing guy. He just became right-wing because it's popular.
The thing about it too is it's that, okay, so after the initial ballots all came in, it was Karen Bass was number 1, Spencer Pratt was right behind her, and then number 3, whatever this woman's name is, Nithya Raman. Okay, so you would expect the mail-in ballots to be more or less like the original ballots in terms of 1, 2, and 3. I'm not saying Spencer Pratt's going to win the mail-in ballot, but it just so happened that the third place person in relative terms did a lot better than the first and second place person.
Astrobot saying Britain is in a similar situation, having to pin their hopes on a based boomer to free UK. Ultimately, it'll come down to who is around Rupert, i.e. Charlie Downs, Harrison Pitt, even Sargon of Akkad. I think you're right. Look, the fact that he's talking about remigration is a great sign. It's like, but I mean, so did Trump. But at least that's the toughest talk you get out of like Europe. You know what I mean? Like you've got more extreme groups or the populists who say that type of stuff, but it's so gentle. It's like even in the UK they talk about all the illegal immigration. It's like I don't think you have a huge illegal immigration problem. You have a huge legal immigration problem. We have an illegal immigration problem because our border's right there. People can just walk across it. Y'all are an island. Like you can't it's not that easy to just illegally immigrate into the UK. That was all done legally. That's the problem. So that's why you need remigration, because it's not really about stopping illegal immigration and letting things kind of balance out. It's like, no, it was a system designed to take down to weaken the populace, so it's like you like it needs to be firm. It needs to be like a real tough stance. And like, man, establishment politics in the United States are left wing, but European establishment politics are like, God, Jesus, Bolsheviks.
Proportionately better.
Such that the Republican was actually kicked out of the race so that there's not actually a real election in California. That to me was the crazy part. It's like you were designing the vote share in order to kick Pratt out and put the third person into second place. That to me is like very, very bizarre. Because what is the theory of the mail-in vote that is somehow like so much more pro Nithya relative to Karen Bass?
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense. Why would it be?
Yeah.
Why would it be? I mean, Karen Bass was ahead.
Canada just made it illegal to think. I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to. If you could put something in the chat to let me know, I'd be very curious about that. GeoGasser. It's so shallow. Taxes are not bad if you put them into real healthcare, infrastructure, revival of Orthodox Church like Russia. The problem is shoving so much money into gay shit. Look, yeah, I think like in a perfect world, like in a more optimized time, or like in a different scenario with our government, I would probably be more of like a fiscal libertarian. Like I would probably want like the free markets to settle most of these issues, because I do feel like that can solve a lot of problems, especially like healthcare and stuff like that. It can drive the cost down because you'll get more innovation and people trying to compete harder. You'll get, tech entrepreneurs who can figure out ways to structure insurance companies and that'll get you cheap care. You can go across state lines. Like deregulation, I think, would help the healthcare industry a lot. That being said, obviously taxes can be used well, but those are symptoms of the problem. They are not the problem. You see the system, like how it shudders when anyone tries to fuck with it at all, right? Like when Elon was doing Doge, like I don't think he got the memo that he weren't really supposed to do that. That it was more of like, that was more talk for the chuds to get Trump in there and then we could get a war for Iran. I don't think he got the memo, because he went into that shit and he was like, yeah, we're going to audit Fort Knox. We're going to do the defense, the Pentagon's next. And he was pulling out all types of crazy shit, crazy facts. Now, I think a lot of it was rushed. It wasn't all accurate, but he did do a lot. And you're just like, oh my God, what the hell is our government spending all this money on? Even more to a wider degree. And you saw the response was unilateral. No, like the right, we were, a lot of the kind of MAGA, we were all caught up, but like every media outlet, they activated their extremists, their left-wing extremists. Like they went nuts when you actually fucked with the system. And you're like, okay, so that's actually the problem. That's actually the issue, is this entrenched bureaucratic power that is, immovable. It doesn't matter who's in there. Like the first guy who ever stepped in there was like somewhat serious, excuse me, about actually getting some kind of reform in those guts. I mean, he was kicked out within a few weeks. They were like, all right, yeah, see ya. We're gonna, now we're gonna get rid of your contracts and stuff. So I don't think the concept is wrong. But the system is so broken. It's like that needs to be addressed. That needs to be seized, like aggressively, and used and harnessed, righteously. So that, I feel like that is far more the biggest problem. Ryan D4Q, I would literally pay 70% of my income for the rest of my life and have 20% of it go to reparations for other races if we could be a white country. Yeah. Yeah, but then you're completely disempowered financially. So you just have to hope that whatever came next was super based. But I think that's really funny. I hear you. We're literally going extinct. What else matters? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like these are existential threats. Like I care about economic reform as much as the next guy, but that is not the 5-alarm fire that's burning right now. That it's a big deal, and it's like it is something we're going to have to deal with. $40 trillion in debt is a whole lot. But there's far bigger problems right now, It's like nitpicking about taxes is that's number 10 on the list, man. Doge did exactly what it was supposed to do: insert Palantir personnel into agencies and suck up their data. Right? Yeah, that was another ancillary effect. Absolutely. I think that Elon had the best intentions there. I do. I think he looked at it like that autistic brain of his. I think he saw a big challenge that he could sink his teeth into and really get some economic reform. Because, I mean, look, when you look at these numbers, you're like, okay, something has to be done. Just a casual outside observer can kind of recognize that. So, but maybe I'm wrong. I could be naive on that, and the whole thing could have just been a front to get Palantir into the systems. But it seemed like they fought really hard. And if that was the whole goal, was to just put Palantir in there, then they could have come up with another way to do it. Astrobot, Fort Knox, something tells me it's empty because we spent it all decades ago. Guess we'll never know. Yeah. I mean, there's no way to know. It's like we spent it all, or got seized, went into someone else's hands. Who fucking knows? But yeah, it wouldn't shock me. We never talk about it. I mean, it's one of these things. We're just like, yep, it's there, allegedly,
by every metric.
Yeah, but I mean, okay. So you asked the question: why do all these blue states, or why do all these big cities, population centers, end up becoming blue? And I think it's like a very complicated, right? So one thing, and you
I actually disagree. I don't think it's very complicated at all, JD. I really don't. I think there's multiple reasons, but I don't think it's complicated. And this is what I was talking about. What was the quote? Somebody said, "Oh, it was about like his wife or whatever." I forgot exactly what the chat was, but y'all had said something. Someone in the chat said something about him and his wife and like this kind of multi-culty face, right? It's like this is the proof. His answer is the proof that he's definitely not on our side. He's not our guy, and that there is no motion, there is no internal movement from any of this system. The GOP at the highest level has no interest in actually addressing our concerns moving forward. I mean, that's why it's like, look, you think about it, right? It's like, even if you believed, even if you trusted the plan still, would you really believe, even if you were like a dyed-in-the-wool plan truster, gun to your head, who's going to do more mass deportations, Trump or JD Vance, Trump or Marco Rubio? Even if you're a plan truster, you'd have to admit the numbers would have to go down under the next guy, under the not Trump, right? Like the idea is Trump would be the deporter in chief, right? And he's not even close to that. He's not that at all. When it's all said and done, maybe we'll get 1 million. Maybe. And I doubt it after the midterms, because after the midterms, the Democrat House is going to just put a vice grip on anything that they want to do with any of that. They'll withhold ICE funding. They're going to make it impossible to deport anybody. So who knows? Maybe 500,000. Maybe that's the legacy of Trump's mass deportations, right? These internal removals. So it's like, even if you believed it, so it's like you think what Vance is going to be tougher on that? He's going to be the guy who's really going to do it. He's going to sacrifice his political future to change the demographics back in our favor in the United States of America. Fuck no. That will never happen. If it wasn't going to happen under Trump, it's not going to happen, right? It's like under any of these guys, with these people, they're not based. This is all a career. This is all a game, man. They're just climbing a corporate ladder. They don't give a fuck. Like Vance refers to it as his industry of politics. You're not in the industry of anything. You run the free world, motherfucker. Do it for us. Serve our interests.
You said this a few months ago, and like when you said it, I was like kind of annoyed by it, but then I like thought there's like an element of truth to it, which is that Republicans still fundamentally have a cool problem, right? There's something more charismatic, more cool about the Democrats as opposed to the right.
Did I say that?
So you said something about there are too many dorks or something on the right.
There's a lot of dorks.
Fair. I'd say there's a lot of dorks.
There's
on the left,
a lot of dorks on the left too. But it's a different kind of dork.
It's a different kind of dork. But the point is that there's something, like, okay, if you're a pop star, you're a rock star, you're an actor, you're in all these cultural centers, you're more likely to be left than right. And so I think that a lot of young people who are attracted to these population centers, they sort of move along with the prevailing culture. I think that's
okay. So far, Vance has laid out the reason why our major cities, our major population centers are so intensely left-wing, so intensely Democrat, are there's like motion with like the Democrats amongst young people. They kind of have like if you're like you're like in one of these kind of cool art spaces or whatever that gravitates a lot of young people, and they tend to be more like left wing and Democrat. And what else did he say? What else was his argument?
That's one thing that's going on. I think a second thing that's going on is the people who are sort of attracted to a certain kind of right of center politics. They want the suburbs. They want the single family home. They kind of want to be left alone. They don't want sort of to be able to hear what their neighbors are doing. So
I hate to say this, but that's like a dog whistle, right? That's like a political dog whistle. He means you, Chud. He means you. You know how you don't want to be in the city with all those freaky trans people? And, they might make fun of them for their $5 matchas or $10 matchas or whatever. You just want to be left alone in your little hamlet with your family. That's you, Chud. That's what he's trying. That's what he's dog whistling to. That's what he's signaling to, right? These right of center. Right of center. Who the fuck is left that's right of center? Like, It's all extremes now. There's no center left. It's just the center has just it's in you people. It's in these establishment conservatives. It's in MAGA. But the rest of anyone with eyes to see and ears to hear is an extreme. The left is really extreme and the right is really extreme. There's no centrist. There's no center right, center left. That's you people. In Washington, that's you people. You vary in degrees. You disagree in like a mild gradient. But us, the people? No, man. No. Look, compared to traditional politics in the United States of America, Trumpism was rather extreme, right? Its core values aren't. Right, it's just the same kind of post-war consensus, just a little bit more pride, a little bit more red, white, and blue explosions. But it's fundamentally it kind of serves the same way. It kind of protects the establishment power. But mass deportations is a pretty radical thing. That's like for the context of our politics, and it's just like, yeah, everyone was on board with that. Everyone was on board with that who voted for you guys. Like nobody who voted for Trump didn't understand that was like what he was saying was going to happen. And that's a pretty extreme point of view. You're not doing that. Everyone's fleeing the party and fleeing your support of you and your administration. And you're talking about people who are center right. Who? The fucking people you play golf with? Who are you even talking about? Who's left? Who's still center right? Who's center anything? Are you kidding me? And so I'll let him finish making his point, but then I'm going to make my fucking point.
A little bit of it's just cultural self-segregation, and that's meant that a lot of these population centers have gone blue. But it's very complicated. I've thought about this a lot, and I also
he's thought about it a lot. It's very complicated. You know what he didn't mention in that? Demographics. Didn't say a fucking word about demographics. Didn't even give lip service to it to support what the agenda's the Trump administration's perceived agenda on deportations. Didn't even give lip service to that. Do you want to know why? Because he is supposed to calm you down on that. That's what his job is. He wants, to push this administration in the campaign. The idea was to get you all excited, and we were going to get the country back, and then they were going to cool the temperature down, and then Vance was going to glide you right back into globalism, but in a cool kind of regular, I watch football on the weekends kind of way. He's Tim Waltz. That's who this guy is. He's just better at it. He's just not such a pussy. He understands. He's got better instincts at what people actually want to hear, and he doesn't have to worry about placating the general left. So he'll, but it's the same thing. It's just putting the fucking, hey, I'm just a regular guy like you. I drink beer and watch football, I just want to be left alone in the suburbs, Look, these people in the city, they have a different disposition. No, motherfucker. They're all brown, and they disproportionately vote left wing. That's it's not even a fucking thing. The Latinos in this last administration, there was a bigger gap in this last election, there was a bigger gap that went, or a bigger percentage that moved towards Trump, moved towards the right, but still the majority was Democrat. The majority of all non-white people is Democrat. And that's what the country's becoming, majority non-white. And these cities are already majority non-white, and that's why. That's the reason. There's no mystery. There's no confusing thing. All those other factors, they matter. Not on a grand level, though. They just don't. So, and you don't even address that. You don't even bring that the fuck up. Just look at racial voting patterns, and it all is right there. It's all completely explainable. It's complicated. There's a lot of different factors. Actually, there aren't. There actually really aren't, dude. There isn't. It's one really big one that you just aren't even observing. Wow, really? Not even lip service? Just the people, what, the white people? Yeah, the white liberal women who go into the city, yeah, they tend to have a more left-leaning disposition, yes. How significant of the voting base are they? Enough to sway an election? Probably not. It's just crazy. It's like, dude, unreal. Target 805. He doesn't exist. So wait. JD Vance is reaching. Yes. JD Vance is reaching out to the hypothetical James Lindsay viewer that also watches Tucker Carlson. He doesn't exist, so Vance's 2028 campaign is DOA. Look, it's like he probably, if the Trump administration executed, right? Let's imagine this. Let's imagine this alternative reality where the Trump administration did execute. We weren't in war with Iran, and we got, let's even say, 4 million deportations. Let's say we got 4, maybe 5 million deportations over the entire run of the Trump administration, right? Didn't have to accomplish Doge, even though that would be nice, but kept us out of the war. Kept prices low and got us like 5 million mass deportations. Like, if they had accomplished that and then they wanted me to support Vance, I probably would have done it. And then Vance could have fucking massaged the message and got our like brown clown soup that we're all supposed to just love while we don't have jobs and no one's having kids and the economy's taking a shit and we're fighting a war for Israel that could, who knows, could go on forever and we have to ask the young men to go fight it. Like with all that, it's like, you want me to, what? Like have a moderate point of view on these things? Are you out of your mind? Are you crazy? It's like, we don't know you. We don't care. We're not like, they just, but this is how you know, right? This is how you know that that's the whole point, right? That's why they pick Usha. That's why he's the guy, right? Because he's going to be the new face of Chud multiculturalism. That's what it's going to be. That's the new plan. It's like, invite all the H-1Bs in, invite all the illegals in, right? Like, it's okay, right? We'll make it work. We're Americans, man. What we really care about is like Rogan and UFC. We're guys. Yeah, no, actually, that ain't cutting it. Carlson's audience has a good understanding of our political landscape. Yeah, they've got a pretty good one, but I don't think they understand completely how well. Like what Target's talking about, right, is like kind of, it's like the intellectual dark web. They want us to go back to, liberalism from the 90s, right? Restrained liberalism, this kind of post-war consensus, not too woke, not too right-wing identitarian. This just kind of, economic prosperity and just sort of Americanism, whatever that even means. We'll just kind of like broadly put on whatever fits in that moment. Reagan and like remember the 90s, remember. It was like, it's just, first of all, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Everyone on the left is incredibly radical now. They were like more radical in the early, like they had become more radical in the early 90s, but like it was nothing like what it is now. You have an entire generation of women, multiple generation of women, propagandized so intensely to hate their own country, hate their fathers, hate men at large. Total whores, 40 bodies, by the time they're 30. I mean, by the time they're 20. And, and it's like, and it's just this idea, we'll go back. We'll never go. What are you talking about? Another example, JD Vance is seeking hypothetical voters that are fans of both Sam Harris and Glenn. Who the fuck? Does Sam Harris still have fans? Does Sam Harris still have fans? Tucker Carlson said he was a communitarian, which is communism rebranded. I don't really know. Astrobot, got to push back on Vance's curated talking point. Conservatives in general are very tolerant when it comes to how culture has swung left. It's the leftists that have become more vocal, intolerant. Yeah, I mean, the conservatives effectively they exist to shore up the left's gains from 25 years ago. That's their purpose. It's like, when gay marriage was the thing, they were all losing their mind and they were going to stop it. They were going to put an end to gay marriage. And of course they lost that battle. And now it's like gay marriage is already is a That's a thing. That's just you. No one even talks about that. It's not even on the table to get rid of. Now it's like, oh, whoa, but we're not into this tranny thing is out of control. That's too much. And in 20 years, that'll be, that's what they do. They just exist to shore up the left's gains from 20 years ago and just make that more establishment. They are, look, the system is left wing. They function as a way to placate us, right? Because they say what we want to hear. Because it's correct, it's real, it's accurate, but they don't ever execute. And whatever executions they do, it's nominal, right? It's there so we could feel like we're winning. I mean, that's the whole Trump administration in a nutshell. The whole idea is to make you feel like you're winning. What have you won? What have you gotten? Oh, a new war from the no new war president, soaring gas prices, no deportations. Yeah, we're winning. We're winning all right, but he makes it look like we're winning. The problem is that game doesn't work anymore with social media because there's just too many people tapped in. Yeah, exactly. Hippocratic oath. Exactly. And where are the conservatives? Where are the MAGA guys on that issue? You ever heard him even mention it? You ever heard it even come up? Not me. Not one time I've ever heard it. And they're sure as fuck not going to risk their career or their standing in the political landscape to do anything about it. And it'll just be another thing you have to accept. And that's the reality. That's the thing that you have to understand about the GOP is they exist to placate me and you. That's what they exist to do. They say base things during the election. He goes on Rogan and he talks like a real, but it's all an act. It's all an act. They don't care. They don't have convictions like this. Certainly Vance doesn't have convictions like this. He's a product. He's a spook. He's a suit. It's not real. But yeah, isn't that crazy though? And that's why I jumped to that clip. All that, why are Democrat cities so blue? Oh, it's because people have kind of like a vaguely left-leaning sensibility who are like artists, and that's why they go to cities. And people who are like center-right, they just want to be in suburbs. You're like, oh, really? That's what it is? Okay. All right. Listen, we are way more educated on this than probably even you are now. Like, what are you, like, you're not gonna throw this past us. If you looked at the comments on this video, it's fantastic. If you scroll them, this is a top comment from 4 days ago. 12,000 likes, it's got. Peter Thiel, hey, JD, go check on the DMT guy. The Peter Thiel experience, saying he's going to go down every rabbit hole while having full access to all unredacted apparent files got me. I guess that's about the Epstein files. Literally talking about bread and circuses right in the beginning. First, I went straight to the comments for the first few sections, paused at the 0 mark to scroll the comments, which I did the exact same thing. The Palantir experience, nobody's buying it. Nobody's buying it. There was so much excitement before the in that interim between Trump's win and him actually taking office, and even the first few months of the administration, there was so much excitement and everybody was on board, and people would share memes where it's just like, a screaming liberal, and they would show you are here, and it was like year 1 of Trump, and then another 3 years of Trump, and then 8 years of Vance, and everybody was just like, we finally did it, boys. We got the country. We saved it from the libs. Whew, that was close, but we did it. And who's left now? What are we, 18 months in? Who's left? Who's an ardent Trump supporter, except for, Jewish, pro-Israel, Zionist people who they're not even really pro-Trump. It's just they're pro-Trump when he does what they want. Boomers, right-wing boomers. And yeah, that's it, really. I mean, who's left? And then just the dumbest dregs of people who are too stubborn to observe reality accurately. They've just been going to war with the woke left for the past 10 years, and they just cannot relinquish the fact that they bet on a guy who lied to them. They're immature emotionally, they won't come to grips with it. That's who's left. That's where all the excitement is. That's the motion. Everyone was pumped. No one's pumped. Hey, go on Rogan. Get the chuds back. Good luck.
I'm not one of these people who says we should just abandon California to the Democrats, like let them deal with their own problems. I think California is like a quintessential part of the American dream. Like if you just abandon California, you've like lost something very core to American culture. And I don't want.
You know what's funny? I even remember this too. This is why JD is such a fucking fraud. Was in the election, in the lead up to the election, I think it was on no, actually, I don't remember which podcast it was. But he said he was critiquing Reagan. He was critiquing Reagan, saying that Reagan made a mistake by giving mass amnesty to all these millions of Mexicans, millions of illegals, and then the California went permanently blue. Hey, JD, why are Democrat cities? Why are they always Democrat? Why they always vote Democrat? Why do all our cities vote Democrat? Well, it's a complicated issue. Shut up. You know the truth. But that's part of the new future. That's part of the new future. There's multiculturalism, white men. Like this is all support. Like this is the woke agenda repackaged and delivered to you. And it's less gay, and it's less less pro tranny. It's less brown, but it's the same shit. It's the same message, which is basically no. You actually can't have your country back. You're not allowed to have it. Tig, JD is in a rough spot. Can't elevate while Republicans are screaming deport all Muslims. Repubs would rather have an Epstein fling for a first lady. Well, look, I mean, the deport all Muslims that's just the Zionists. That's just people who are like, they're just on board because they want us to think that the Israel fight and the Europeans fight are like all the same, right? Like Europe's going to war with all these Muslim immigrants. Israel is massacring them all. And they want to make us feel, they want to put all those in the same box, that our fight with immigrants is the same fight as Europe's having with immigrants and Israel's having with, every fucking Muslim country. And it's just not true. But it's like, those aren't that's not real. People might get animated, like idiots might get animated about the Muslim shit. And like, yeah, I don't want Muslims here either. Fuck them. Like, I'm America first, you know what I mean? And like, Muslims are not America first. They're Islam first. Just like, the Jews, like, and the Zionists are Israel first. Like, I'm America first, right? And so it's like, yeah, I don't want them here either. But it's like, it's not the problem. If we got rid of all the Hispanic immigrants that came over in the past 10 years, or the illegals or whatever, at the cost of keeping all the Muslims that we have here now, I would take that deal. I'd take that deal in a fucking instant. That's just not the problem.
To give up on it.
Detach all religions from politics? All right, bro. I think James Lindsay's down the hall to the left, dude.
I'm not saying we're going to win California in my lifetime necessarily, but I don't like the idea of giving up on it.
Well, it's not just giving up on. I mean, giving up on it would be terrible. It's an awesome state. The real problem is it's deeply corrupt. Yes. I mean, deeply, deeply corrupt. And what they're trying to do is make it impossible for the other side to win.
Yeah.
And there should be laws against that. First of all, the idea of mail-in ballots for anybody other than people who are invalids, who can't leave their homes, or military, or people that are, for some reason...
Astrobot. Comes to cheating. If Dems didn't cheat, they would be gone like the Whigs long ago. The real divide is on the right between America First and MIGA. Blue cities, i.e. sanctuary cities, i.e. illegal voters. Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And, because it's still one of these issues that's up in the air, Vance is paying lip service to the SAVE Act, and voter ID and stuff like that. And it's like, I mean, we all know that. You know what I mean? But the thing is, like, that's a feature, not a bug. That's part of it, It's like there are internal battles between the left and right, like in the establishment. But that's not the big issue here. You know what I mean? That's not like, it's not just like, oh boy, if the GOP could just get the SAVE Act through, then we'd have a based new American empire. Like that's not the reality, right? Is that they all serve masters that are greater than the interests of the American people. Right. It's like the left serves the interest of actively being the face of destroying it. And, the right serves the interest of subverting it, but through war and through support of Israel. Right. But it's like this, they're both serving foreign masters, neither of which supports us as the American populace.
They're serving overseas. They're doing something overseas. It should not be legal.
That's right.
And the fact that it became ubiquitous during COVID is a giant problem.
Absolutely, Lord of the Ring. We are Rome. We are Rome.
Yeah, so this raises one of my total segue here, side point, but so if you remember in the aftermath of the 2020 election, where there was all this like debate about was the election stolen, was the election not stolen, all the litigation that moved through, there was a case in Pennsylvania that like didn't get very much attention. And I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but basically it was a guy in a rural area of Pennsylvania saying, you're undercounting my vote because we didn't have the opportunity to do the mail-in ballots like they did in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And like the
I think we're going to move on from this conversation and get into the real meat. The real meat. And we're going to watch Vance try to juggle maintaining a good relationship with the powerful donors who clearly run our country and therefore the world. And us and the chuds and the MAGA chuds. He's going to MAGA chuds, like the right wing chuds, and try to placate us. We're going to watch him walk that delicate line, and it is really something to behold because he sucks at it. He's not good at it at all.
But then there's people like, did you read that report that came from at the start of the Iran war, where there was a guy who was an officer, non-commissioned officer, who was at a briefing, and this guy came in as explaining to them that they didn't need to be afraid because this war was important because Trump had been anointed by Jesus Christ to bring about his return, and the way Jesus is gonna return is by bombing Iran.
I did not see that report.
Okay, that sounds
pretty far out there to me.
This is
JD Vance didn't hear that report. Must have slipped by. He was busy that day. Didn't hear that one. I heard that one, Mr. Vice President. I saw that going around on Twitter. I saw that in the fucking news, man. You missed it. You missed the one where it turns out that Hegseth is one of these like evangelists who thinks that they're gonna destroy like that mosque and rebuild the third temple, and that'll bring back Jesus Christ, which is not even accurate reading of the Bible. It's like this evangelical Jewish bullshit, which is actually bringing across the Antichrist. If it was like bringing back the end times. Okay, this is not. You didn't hear that. You missed that, JD. Okay, bud. All right. Yeah. I don't fucking believe you. Why he can't touch this. We know why he can't touch this, right? We know why. Because this is the ideological, the sort of spiritual underpinning of this war with Iran, right? It's like the extremely religious Jews, like that is their motivation for this, right? This is finally getting their vengeance on the West, finally getting their vengeance on Christ. That's what this is. And he just needs to play stupid. I didn't even hear that. Wow, that's pretty wild. And then he goes on for the next 5 minutes or so trying to be like, well, the media, they lie. They make stuff up all the time. Okay. All right, buddy.
This is the kind of right-wing thinking. So here it is. Military commander tells troops bombing Iran is part of God's divine plan. So we started getting calls in the wee hours of Saturday morning from people saying their commanders were just jubilant about this, trying to tell people, don't worry, it's all part of God's plan. They promised a 200-mile-long river that is 4.5 feet deep, filled with nothing but the blood that their weaponized version of Jesus will spill at the Battle of Armageddon, Weinstein said.
Yeah, that sounds like what I know of Christ. That sounds like the love your enemies Christ, that I will liquidate an entire civilization. Oh, was that Paul?
What was the one? There was an article where the guy was explaining the actual quotes that the one officer was telling him, the one commander. Yeah, but it's not that. It was very specific. It was very specific what he said.
This stuff is, I mean, first of all, as a Christian, you sort of believe that everything is part of God's plan, even things that are.
Wow, that was a ballsy pivot. That's a ballsy pivot, man. You are playing fast and loose with your soul there, big guy. Yeah, in a way, it's all part of God's plan. So, yeah, if I could get any traction out of this war being biblical and it won't destroy my future in politics, let me reflect on this for a minute. Like, okie dokie.
Are ultimately very terrible. I mean, you kind of have to
Hold
make
up, but let me
yeah.
read the quote. He urged us to tell our troops that this was all part of God's divine plan, and he specifically referenced numerous citations out of the book of Revelations referring to Armageddon and the imminent return of Jesus Christ. He said that President Trump had been anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to earth.
Okay.
If I'm in
like, and look, this if you pay attention to like the esoteric like Jewish understanding of like this war and kind of their worldview and you'd know this, you'd be keyed into this. It's one of those things that like when the normies hear it, they're like, whoa, what was that last? What did you just fucking say? Bring it apart, Armageddon. But JD's ignorance to this is really funny because Rogan doesn't know what he's saying. Like Rogan doesn't know what he stumbled on here. He doesn't realize like what this is an insight into. He doesn't know. He thinks this is like crazy Texans who believe this. And like to a degree it is, but they don't believe it because they just had the best preachers. They believe it because there's a vested political interest that people believe it. And so Rogan's like, he's like processing this through like a Bill Maher kind of 90s secular liberal perspective, like religious, like, these crazy Christians just like, and Vance lucked out. Vance lucked out that Rogan had no idea what the hell he's talking about here. And the fact, and like, I'm sure Vance knows, and he needs to play stupid, and his deflections are beautiful. Like his just like I didn't even hear about that. You didn't hear about that, really? I heard about that. You're in the administration, motherfucker. You heard about it.
that meeting, I'm like, hit the brakes. Hit the brakes. What?
That's where you need some of the psychedelics we talked about at the last Joe Rogan JD Vance conversation.
That would definitely help.
Yeah, the Jews are gonna crush me for this one.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, my response to that, first of all, like, obviously, do I endorse that? No. Do I think that it's important that people rein?
Oh boy, they're not gonna like that. They're not gonna like that, JD. You're gonna get tough to get the donors in 28, buddy. Saying you don't endorse that? Uh-oh. I think Yoram Hazoni does. I think Netanyahu does. You better watch your step here, big guy. Getting too big for your britches.
In a little bit, because I'm sure you're right. There were a lot of troops there, probably a lot of Christian troops there who were like, I'm not sure this is exactly right.
Right.
But the important point is, I think it's important as a Christian leader, as Christians, period. One of the things we have to do is just have humility in the face of God's plan. There's a lot that we don't understand. There's a lot that we don't get. And I think especially on matters.
Yeah, maybe it is all God's plan to, fight this war for Israel and, betray our promises and commit mortal sins on a mass scale and blow up a children's school. Maybe that was part of God's plan to drive up oil prices and serve these desert people across the ocean and to cover up the Epstein files. That's all just God's vision for you. Wow. The fucking balls, dude. The balls to say that. Oh my God.
Of war and peace, the approach that I try to take is you try to make the best decisions that you can. You hope that you're on God's side. You don't assume that God has taken your side. That's a very famous Abraham Lincoln quote, and that's the attitude that I take. So for that, what I would encourage that NCO to say is, you know what? God is in control. We don't know what's going to happen, but let's pray and try to do as good of a job as we can, trusting in God. If I was speaking to a group of Christian troops, that's what I would say.
But you're speaking to a group of...
That's That's disgusting. That's utterly disgusting. Like trying to have this sort of like broad, like, you know, listen, it's all part of God's plan. Things just sort of fall into place. Meanwhile, you're in the administration that made this war happen. That was the furthest thing from inevitable. The goals they're trying to accomplish in this war are the status quo that we all had before they started it, which is open the Strait of Hormuz, which was just a waterway as open as the middle of the Atlantic, and them to not pursue nuclear weapons, all of which were very much in place prior to this war. Because the guy that you killed had a fatwa against making them. So now that we're in this horrible conflict, guys, it's all just part of the plan. Who can even say? It's like, you did it. I mean, like Trump did it, but you're his right-hand man, dude. You go down. If he goes down, you go down, and we blame you. You didn't resign in protest. You didn't take the Joe Kent route and resign in protest. You could have. That's an option. It'd be unprecedented, but it's still something you could have done. You didn't do that, so you tacitly support it. And guys, it's all just, you know, who can make sense of the world? Am I right? Oh my God. They're making the popular Hezbollah argument that evangelicals are the primary reason the U.S. supports Israel. Yep. I mean, look, that is a legitimate reason why people do. I was dating a girl, from Texas, and she wasn't, quote, like an evangelical, but she had a lot of those beliefs. Like when I was like sharing like Israel critical stuff, like she didn't know, like she was like, what, why are you, she was thrown off by it. And her dad, oh boy, her dad is really pro-Israel, man, in a really disturbing way. Like I've told this story before, but it's worth repeating. This was on Thanksgiving in 2023, right? So it was like maybe a month and a half after October 7th. Well, I guess, yeah, do the math on when Thanksgiving is. And we're sitting down for dinner, right? And it's like, you guys are Americans, most of you. You've had Thanksgiving dinner, right? What's the grace normally? It's what you're thankful for. Like, that's the whole point. It's like what you did like in middle school. You're like, oh, what are you thankful? I'm thankful for my mommy and my daddy. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you do on Thanksgiving. Everyone goes around and says what they're thankful for. This motherfucker, he prayed to God to wipe out the Palestinian scum. That was his Thanksgiving prayer. Nothing about his family. Nothing about like being grateful, or it was to wipe out the Palestinian scum. That's what he prayed for. Yo. So look, the evangelical thing is legit. It's just a psyop, but the support is real. It is a real thing. I've seen it with my own eyes. So his talking point is, let Jesus take the wheel, guys. It'll work itself out. Yeah, kinda. He's sort of saying that. They're bleeding support from even the evangelical goyim. It's interesting. I don't have when I lived in Texas, it was Austin. It's a secular hellhole. But that's not true. I think it gets too much hate for that, but it is that. But Scott Horton always says that the evangelicals, that they lost a lot of support because that's what they believed going into the Iraq war. This was another biblical thing that would bring Jesus back and the rapture would come. And when it didn't, apparently they lost a lot of support for that. That's just something Horton said. I don't even know where he pulled that from. I don't know if that's like a broader trend or if that's just people he knows, but that's something that he has said. So,
troops.
Sure.
You don't know if they're Christian. You don't know. I mean, you're essentially letting these people know that you believe that Trump was anointed by Jesus to bomb Iran so that Jesus can come back to Earth.
Come back in a fire
If I
of
was
Armageddon.
there, I'd be like, can I get the fuck out of here?
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Look,
military?
yes, and that is the first that I have ever heard of this particular story.
How have you not heard of this and Biden's 2 brain surgeries?
Apparently,
absolutely. Let me just look at this. U.S. military bomb Iran for Jesus. News. Pete Hegg says, Holy War from April. Report, U.S. commander told troops Trump has been anointed by Jesus in March. Hegg says U.S. troops are fighting for Jesus in April 4th. March 3rd, military leaders say Iran war is so Trump can bring about Armageddon. Why are the U.S. framing the ongoing conflict as a religious war? Hegg says praying for overwhelming violence in Iran in the name of Jesus Christ. There are article after article about this. The vice president didn't hear this story? Really? Is it because the fucking people who don't know might want to investigate what faith actually does believe that, and it's not Christianity? Motherfucker. You think you're slick, dude. You think you're slick. You're not slick. We're on to you. That's why the comments. That's why you're getting crushed. You will never be president. Fuck you.
I live in a bunker, man.
How do you not know about these things? That's crazy.
Wild. Okay, here's the other thing I'll say is having heard about this for the first time just now, to your point about the media.
Target. I'm aware that many normie conservatives still support Israel. I talked to some myself. That's interesting, but it's not them whom Congress has in mind when they send checks to Tel Aviv. Yeah, no, they just got to placate them long enough to support, But they know. Israel knows. I read it on Tuesday on my show on the Foul Ball Productions. I read an article from Haaretz that was basically them saying, "Listen, Jews, the ride's over. The free ride, the special situation that we had, it's done. You're just gonna have to get used to it. We're gonna have to pivot, whatever." But it's like they know the support's bleeding. It's a line in the sand. It's an age thing. I mean, I don't know about the guys you're talking about. I'm sure they still exist, but it's like, just look at the Massey election, right? That's like such good insight. Everyone over 55, all in because, Trump, blah, blah, Massey, blah. Everyone under went for Massey. It's just an age thing, like it was what I was talking about like an hour ago. It's like, it's hard for people to believe, to learn that what they believed their whole lives was a lie. And the older you get, the harder that is to break that spell. And that's what we're dealing with here, right? Like, it was never a question whether the United States supported Israel, ever. When I was a kid, I would ask questions, and it was just kind of met with like, well, the Holocaust, it was like, and I was an idiot, so I just kind of was like, all right, I guess, I remember like in high school and like middle school, and I'm reading like another book about the Holocaust. And it's like, oh, it was so bad. You have to. It was. And it's like, okay, it was just always the de facto position that was supposed to be believed. So I don't know if the guys you're talking about are boomers, but it's one of those things that's just there. Dispensationalism is the biggest psyop. Based. Never try to red pill your parents. Look, I was saying this, Smelly. I don't know if you were here for that, but my mother referred to herself as a groiper the other day. It was like, kind of an exasperated, like, kind of statement. Like, I guess I am too, but I know you're not supposed to, but I'm doing it. Yeah, let's go. Groiper mom. Kepsta, they need all the Jews in Israel for the Judeo mythology Armageddon narrative. So even if it's real, we will have total remigration of Jews from the West, so they got to support my local so they can move on already. Oh, they were born. Yeah, they're boomers. Yeah, that's just boomers, man. Yeah, that's just boomers. They're so cooked. Like, I grew up in the 90s, right? If you watch those like 90s movies, like watch like Private Ryan, like the level of romance with which they depict that war, man, it was so noble that if you watch those movies, you'd believe that there were military horns playing on the battlefield when these men were actually fighting. Like, it's so romanticized, that whole war, that whole conflict, the tragedy of the Holly, like it's beat into their head so aggressively that like it's just you just gotta kind of, they're gonna die soon, I know, right? Isn't that cool? No, so funny. She's just like, I guess it is, I guess, I don't know. Like, I I know it's a lot. It's a lot. It's like that meme. I saw that meme from Training Day with Denzel and Ethan Hawke, and it's Denzel like just looking at him, and Ethan Hawke's like, it can't be that can't be the way it is. I know you can't accept it. I had the same problem. It's just like, but that can't be how it is. I know, but it is. Oh, interesting. After being red-pilled, looking back at the film like The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, you realize what a load of crap it was. Seriously. Bro, they still do it. There's still, like, every year, there's still, like, 3 or 4, like, Holocaust, like, and Nazi productions. I mean, it's, like, it is probably the most produced genre in the history of film. It's crazy. Like, I remember, I don't remember where I came from, but I was like, there was another one. Like, oh, there's another one upcoming. And, oh, this actress was in this thing about the, Hitler Youth. You're just like, oh, my God. Fuck. It's just funny because it's like, well, everyone's sympathy's over because you're like, yeah, you kill kids and you're like happy and you like celebrate. It's like, yeah, okay. Oh, all sorts of films, Three Kings, Tears of the Sun, Few Good Men, etc. Do those have it in there too? I mean, I guess kind of to a degree, everything that came out of Hollywood has something in it. They all have. There's not like a truly based movie, right? I mean, God, I hope that's not true. I'm being hyperbolic. No.
I do think it's possible, let's be honest, that whatever that dude said, maybe it was good, maybe it was bad, has been misreported.
It's also possible that
I don't want to listen to this idiot fucking waffle on this bullshit topic and try to lie. It's very embarrassing for everybody. This was like, these are the clips that were going around that really got everyone's attention because Cars 1 is based. Yeah. I think they're still based movies. I'm just fucking around. But this is these are the clips that were getting people's attention because it had to do directly with the war in Iran. And, in a way, Rogan was kind of a good interviewer with this situation because he like didn't go right after this. He just had like the kind of regular dude conversation. And then it just like, it got real. And look, you're the vice president. We're at war. You have to answer these questions.
Do you think that the way that you just described it aligns with our campaign in Iran?
Well, I think that the goal is certainly good, which is to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. And I think that there are obviously a lot of questions about how best to achieve that. There's both a short-term and a long-term piece of it.
Just like we had that already, dude. Like, I can't believe that's how you're like, yeah, no, the goal is good. How is the goal? We had that. I thought total destruction of Midnight Hammer. We had that, dude. They weren't going to build a nuke. It was a hedge. It's a hedge because the only nuclear power in that region is Israel, and Israel's hell-bent on destroying them. So they want a hedge. They want to know that if it comes down to civilizational destruction and regime change and like a complete decapitation and installing some either, like a system that'll balkanize the entire country or liberal democracy, that they can defend against that. Because in the history of the atom bomb, no one who has possessed one has ever been invaded. And they know that. So it's like, yeah, they don't want to do it. It's against their religion, but they do want to make sure they don't get destroyed. So it's a hedge. So just leave them the fuck alone. Just leave them alone. How about that? We actually would be all good then. But yeah, the talking points. Here we fucking go. Unbelievable.
I think the short-term piece of it is effectively what's already been done, which is you destroy the nuclear sites and you destroy and eliminate the ability to rebuild the nuclear sites. I think there's a longer-term thing, which is where
which we accomplished, last year with Midnight Hammer? That wasn't even part of this operation. What are you talking about? That's not even aligned with the administration's perspective. Oh my God.
A lot of the debate is focused on right now, which is that building a nuclear program is hard, but it's not impossible. And it's expensive, but it's actually not even that expensive if you look at, you could go on YouTube right now and find out how to build an atomic bomb.
You think they're more or less likely to pursue it after you kill the new Ayatollah's entire family? What do you think? You think he's more bullish or bearish on it now that we killed his whole family? I wonder where he's leaning. It's just, we got to make sure. You had that, dude. You had that. That's not what this is about, and you know it. It's just, The ability to lie about things on such a grand scale and such a serious issue is really disturbing. It's nothing new. It's not even, it's just, this is what they do. They lie about these types of things, but it's just, we all know, like, it's so transparent, like when you've got like screechy leftist girls who are like actually correct on this issue, dude, it's over. You lost the narrative war.
So part of our Iran policy, and this is where I get frustrated with the people who say you should never negotiate with Iran, part of our Iran policy is like solving the long-term problem. That if we could create the sort of circumstance where Iran would commit not just to not have a nuclear weapon right now, but over the long term to not try to rebuild that capacity, like, yeah, I think that is a good and valuable thing.
See, if it was This is Vance trying to not have this entire war sink his political campaign. That's what he's doing right now. Like this is him damage controlling. And on one hand, what he's saying to the lobby and the pro-Israel people is just like, no, this is a good and noble war because Iran can never have a nuke. He's not addressing the real root causes. He's doing the Hezbollah. He's saying the thing that they want to hear, right? But then on the other hand, he knows the score. Anyone knows the score here. Trump doesn't have to worry about that. He can't even be elected again. He'll be fucking 82 or whatever it is. Like he'll be done when this is all over. If he doesn't go to jail for all the fucking fraud and crimes he's been committing. But he knows, JD knows that wars obviously are extremely unpopular, especially the financial position that we're in, the tenor of the youth. They don't want to fight this war. So he has to say, like, yeah, but the people who say that, we should negotiate with Iran, like, I disagree with that. It's like, that's not placating us, dude. We're not just like, well, that's a nice, reasonable, centrist position. No, we want to stop all foreign aid to Israel and actually deport or arrest all of the traitors in our government who facilitated this. You think we'll be placated by, well, we should negotiate with Iran? No. I don't want to fight I don't want to fire one bullet or spend one more dollar on that country or any of its conflicts. And I want that to be the permanent state of affairs. I don't want it to be, well, got to be reasonable. No reasonable. There is no reason here. There's no middle ground. So you think this is working on someone like me? You think this is working on someone who believed that like MAGA was going to do the things that the No New Wars people who believed you when you said that, you think this is placating us? He's satisfying absolutely nobody. And because it's like he can't. The two things could not exist at the same time. There's the people this will placate, the real people this will placate will be people who like still want to believe in Trump, but know in their heart that this war is wrong. Because they'll be like, well, Vance said that, it's like we can find a way out and we can negotiate. That's pretty reasonable. It's like that's all this is doing. Because any of the boomers, any of those people who like, are going down with this ship no matter what, like they probably want to hear fire and brimstone about the war. They don't actually give a shit about any kind of like modulated or, like mediated peace or anything like that. And then, the people on the real right who are just like, no, we want American sovereignty and America first politics, like actually want those things, are not even going to, we're like, you're lying. Like, we know you're full of shit. So everybody is pissed off by this. The Zionists are pissed off by this, and the actual right in the country are pissed off by this. So this satisfies nobody, but it's really funny to watch him try to do it. It's really funny to watch him try to spin this thing where he's just like, I'm the reasonable one here, I'm the moderate. You're not going to be president, asshole.
Your call, would you have done exactly the same thing?
Well, what did the president said publicly that JD was less enthusiastic about it, I think was the exact phrase that he used. I mean, my attitude towards this man, is, as you know, is the vice president, I'm not a public commentator. Like, my job is to give the best advice I can to the president.
As I just sat here for an hour making public comments, I'm not a public commentator. Well, that's convenient. That's a convenient position to hold, when obviously massive swaths of the American public do not want this war. And when it comes to that, hey, guys, that's not my job. That's not my gig. I don't make those types of comments, guys. I'm just a rah-rah, support the president type of guy. Okay.
United States. I think he's said a little bit about what that advice was. But once the president makes a decision, so long as I think that it's, legal and ethical and all that stuff, and I certainly think whether you agree or disagree with it, what we've done has been legal. My attitude.
What a glowing endorsement of this war. Hey, technically, that was legal what we did. That's technically, we found the way to accomplish that legally. Okay? So why would no one negotiates? No one's trying to audit the legality of a noble military action. No one gives a shit. It's irrelevant. You use that when it is disastrous and has horrible consequences that are not easy to fix. Then you start to analyze the legality of it, and that becomes part of the conversation. Having this retreat to, hey, it was legal. You're like, okay, it's still horrible. It doesn't save. Gas prices don't go down now because you said it's legal. Those soldiers don't come back to life. They don't spring back to life that got killed because of this war because it's, quote, legal. Who gives a shit?
Towards it is I try to make it as successful as possible. And I've got friends, of course, I think, you've expressed some skepticism of this. I've got a lot of friends, both in private and public, who've expressed skepticism of this, who say, well, this is terrible. We disagree with the decision, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not a public commentator. My approach to this is not to Monday morning.
Hey, you're not in the fucking White House press room, idiot. You're on a public commentary show. And then you're going to sit here for another 2 hours and not publicly comment? What are you saying, dude? So then why don't we just have Trump here? Why are you even sitting down? It's just you're just going to parrot everything Trump thinks and believes? But you haven't, actually. You even said, I'm the guy who's the more moderate. I think we should be able to negotiate with Iran. That's a public comment. That is a public comment on the situation that contradicts the sort of broader narrative. So yes, you are a public commenter because you just did. What you mean is you're not going to publicly comment on this one because if I actually publicly comment on it, I'm going to piss off everybody. That's what you mean. Fucking fraud.
Quarterback a decision that was made 3 months ago. My approach to it is to try to make it as successful as possible, which is why I poured my heart and soul into these negotiations, which is why I've tried to make that goal, Iran not having a nuclear weapon, something that's not true both not just now, but is true in the long term. And that's the way that I try to approach it.
So what is going on with Iran where it seems like the president keeps saying that a deal's been reached, negotiations have been successful, and then it all falls apart and we start bombing them again?
Yeah, so how long do we have here? Because this is a long
got as much time as you need.
So
how long do we have here on notoriously one of the longer podcasts that exist? Listen, this is going to take a while to dig into. You're an hour in on the Joe Rogan Experience. You've got time. You've got plenty of time. You just want to, just shut out on the UFC. Joe, you should, that was the best show, blah, blah, blah. Let's just have fun. My wife, it's just unreal.
I have to explain a couple of things in the background so you sort of fully appreciate, people fully appreciate what's going on here. So number one, it's a bit of a simplification, but you have two elements within the Iranian system. You have, and you sometimes hear hawkish Americans say this, that they're all crazy people. They want to bring about, the 12th Imam and the apocalypse and all that stuff. Right. There are people in Iran who believe that. They're also pragmatists. You've got the crazy people, you've got the pragmatists, okay? So when we struck this MOU, and really what the MOU says, and it was misrepresented more than almost anything that I've ever worked on in public life. What it says is Iran is going to open the Strait of Hormuz. The violence is going to...
It's going to blow your mind. You're not going to believe. Listen, trust me when I tell you. No. Nigga. I don't trust you. The plan for Iran, in my opinion, was to take them out so America could give hegemony of the Middle East to Israel and start the Greater Israel Project, and that's why they talk about Turkey already. Syria's annexation by both. I think that is the best read on the situation. It's the only thing that makes any sense. Iran's been an enemy of Israel's for a long time. I think, ever since the Islamic Revolution, which apparently then we've been at war with them ever since, which is weird, because we sold them fucking weapons in the 80s under Reagan. Odd that we were at war with them when we did that. That would be treason, but it's obviously not true. It's just, just total Hezbollah bullshit. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. And apparently, I was listening to Daryl Cooper talk about that very thing. Apparently Turkey is a very serious army with very well-trained fighters that, if Israel was going to try to have that fight, they would just get smacked. That's what I understand.
Stop. And then we're going to negotiate to see if we can come to a broader deal on the long-term nuclear issue. That's what we wanted. And what the Iranians wanted, of course, was long-term economic and sanctions relief. Now, here's the problem with where we are right now. And I guess my summary view, Joe, is that I, of course, can't predict the future. I don't know exactly where this is going to go, but I think fundamentally we are on the right trajectory. It's just going to be really messy, and there's going to be a lot of stops and starts. So what happens? The first week after we sign the MOU, we get 20 million barrels a day of oil out of the Strait of Hormuz.
Hippocratic oath. I hear cats. That's my cat, Roxy. She's currently in heat, and that's what that is. She's going nuts. Good ear. I wasn't sure if the mic was picking that up, but yeah, she's been a real pain in the ass today.
Hormuz, that's what it was before the war. The price of oil comes way down, and there are elements, the hardliners in the Iranian system kind of freak out a little bit. They're like, oh shit, did we just give away our major leverage point? Screw nuclear weapons. We just gave away the SO in this MOU. And so there was this kind of freak out in their system. So they shot at a couple ships. We responded. And I think that's entirely appropriate, of course. If they're going to shoot at ships, we are going to shoot at the people who are shooting at the ships, or we're going to destroy the facilities that they're using to shoot at ships. So that happens. Okay, and then the Iranians are like, oh, no, fine. You're right. We shouldn't have been shooting at ships. So then they come back to the table. And there's a few more days of negotiation. And then the phase that they're in right now is the hard line.
Oh, my God. He's so fucking boring. He has no charisma. Oh, my God. Oh my God. And he's just like, I'm just the practical. I'm just going to explain this to you, real simple. What you don't understand, what you see inside the government. You know what? I got to be honest, JD, I'm not really concerned with what's going on inside that government, actually, because that government didn't compel my country to go to war. Actually, kind of the opposite, right? They didn't want to go to war. The last Ayatollah did everything he could. He bent over backwards, did absolutely every concession he could possibly think to make to avoid the war, and we still did it. And that was never successfully sold to the American people because there is no justification that serves our interests. So actually, JD, my bigger concern is what's going on inside the Israeli government, okay? So if you want to talk about the future of this war and what governments are involved in it and what decisions are being made, I actually would like to hear about the one who compelled us to fucking do this war, okay? Actually not all that interested with the Iranians. Quite frankly, the Iranians deserve capitulation. I know we can't really do that, and that's not a good, strong position for the Americans to take, but it is what is right. It is what is correct. I mean, you bomb them in the middle of negotiations. It's audacious. It's utterly audacious. Anyway, this is... So this is an interesting one to watch him kind of twist around too, okay? I have this marked down as what are the motivation of the war hawks in our government? So this is an interesting one to watch him dance around too. I think it's more interesting, right? It's we know this is bullshit. Obviously, I could just pick apart the bullshit all day, but I do like to see... I like to highlight it and watch them try to dance around it, to try to say all the things that look, this would have worked. These talking points probably would have worked in the first administration, right? If they tried to pull this in Trump 1, this probably would have worked because the conversation wasn't so robust and there wasn't such an open and clear communication and precise and widespread insight on this war. I mean, look, you're getting really precise insight on this conflict from the right, from the libertarians and from the left. Drop Site News is an incredibly good resource for insight into what's actually going on with this war. And I think Ryan Grimm, who owns that outlet, I think he's a Democratic socialist. He's at least very far on the left. Yet he's a valuable resource on this war, right? So it's like you can go to all these different outlets and get good insight on this. You can't spin this bullshit to us, dude. We know you're lying. We have all the access to the information. This isn't 2003. We don't live in a captured media environment anymore, dude. But anyway, this is I love to watch him do it. So let's see what he's got to say.
Open-ended obligations.
What do you think the motivation of the Hawks is? Do you think this is? Are they influenced by defense contractors? Are they what's the reason why they're so keen on continuing to bomb?
I think
what is the reason, JD? What's the reason? What's the reason why these widespread forces inside our government and outside of our government and these networks and these powerful billionaires with all what's the reason? What is the connective tissue there? What's their motivation, JD? We'd love to hear your answer on the subject, my friend. We would just love to hear it.
With any big group of people, you have a diversity of opinions. So sure, I'm sure
diversity of opinions, guys. It's a lot of different, a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Everyone's got to weigh in. Is that what it is, JD? Oh, okay. Never mind.
That, you have people who are influenced by defense contractors. There's a lot of talk about how much is the Israeli government influencing American politics, and there are certainly certain people within,
just that kind of chatter around these types of situations. There's talk about do the Israelis influence our politics? Are they actually in charge of our foreign and most likely domestic policy and compel us to fight their wars? And there's no way to say no to them. And in fact, it goes back, the treachery goes back decades. Some people are saying that, and that's just one of the things people are saying.
The Israeli government who hate the deal. And we see exact evidence. There was a Times story that came out yesterday that basically there are certain influencers in America who are being paid in order to attack the deal. I think some of it's just pure political right? It's foreign policy perspective.
That's all that is. Just, political. He makes it sound like it's a handful of people who just kind of independently came to these conclusions. There's just people out there. They're just neocons. Don't look into what that even means or what the connection is there or the history of that particular sect of politics. It's just ideology. It's just different ideologies about what we should do. Yeah, is that what it is, bud?
That are much different from mine. They think that America should that we can you can wave a magic wand with the military and accomplish whatever you want. And, it's not that simple. You actually have to have a very clear objective. Military power can accomplish a clear objective, but you've got to have that clear objective. You can't just say, we're going to bomb until something good happens. That never works. The United States has tried that before. So I think it's a combination of things, but I definitely think
it's just a combination of things, there's these people out there whom I don't agree with that just think you could just point the magic military button and, we should just keep bombing, it's a combination of things. It's just sort of an amalgamation of people inside our own government, influencers outside of the government, foreign governments with their own agenda. And there's just this connection that they all share, and it all seems to motivate our entire foreign policy. And it's a bunch of things. It's all complicated. It's all mixed up, and is that what it is, JD? Is that what it is, bud?
You have seen this very discreet, extremely well-funded campaign to try to derail the negotiation and try to derail the deal. And, there was...
Isn't it crazy what he's not saying? Isn't it crazy what he's not saying? He admits that there are influencer campaigns. He admits that there's people in powerful positions who just want to keep bombing. And he's just the elephant in the room. It's sitting there right on the table in between the two of them. And he's just not They're not even observing it. They're not even acknowledging it. It's not even happening. Yeah, some people are just corrupt. Some people are just look, and that's not to say that that's not true, right? You know, like I believe that there have been neoconservatives and people who are like probably not ideologically aligned to the greater Israel project, but they also don't have convictions or like a soul that would conflict with that, right? There probably is run-of-the-mill corruption. I mean, military industrial contractors do make a lot of money on war, and that could purely be their motivation. But that's not what moves the needle. It's an influence, it's a detail, but that's not what this is, right? Miriam Adelson didn't give Trump $100 million and just would hope it worked out the way she wanted, right? Like there's a mechanism here. There's leverage. There's positions. There's people with power in all different walks, like all different institutions, right? And they play them like a fucking orchestra. So it's like, yeah, well, it's just some people are corrupted. Some people have ideology. Is that what it is? Some people? Is that what we're talking about here? What's that saying? Christian Ramirez. Dude, influencers are being paid to support these deals. Israel keeps assassinating anyone trying to get the deal done. JD would so much better if he just told the truth. Teal hasn't by that. Yeah. Well, yes, if he just told the truth, but if he can't tell, if he told the truth, he'd probably be assassinated, you know, or if he would definitely be done politically. Like he'd be living, but he can't, he doesn't work in the truth. He's not the type of guy who operates in explaining the truth. Even if he told the truth, he'd probably do it poorly. Like, he's not a guy who lives in that. Like, he's a construct, right? Like, he's a Peter Thiel machine. You know, he's just part of the new iteration of the GOP they're trying to sell us, right? He knows the truth. It probably doesn't even concern him in his heart to express that. That's just not how he is. It is Christian. Okay. Oh, I don't care. I just didn't know. But Christian, all right, thanks for clearing it up.
Again, there's this Time article that came out yesterday. A friend sent it to me. It's like worth reading because it lists a bunch of people who have quite literally been paid by a former Trump campaign person who was himself paid by certain elements within the Israeli government. And those people are attacking me viciously for quite literally trying to accomplish the negotiation objective that the president set for the country. So
what is their position? Like, are there...
See, but that's the one that's for us, right? That's the one that's for us, you know, because it's like, if you're Israel critical, well, then you hear that and you're like, whoa, he just kind of put on blast that there's a single influencer, just one, who, you know, worked for the Trump campaign and also worked, what's up? Capo, Craig Butler. What's up, homie? How you doing, man? Good to see you. That also work for the Israeli government, and they're trying to say I'm an anti-Semite, and you know that's supposed to be for us. That's supposed to be for, you know, the Israel critical people. Oh, Roxy. I had that on the laptop, and I didn't even know she somehow got that to play while the laptop was locked. This fucking cat. Yeah, Capo Groiper, indeed. But, you know, that's supposed to be like, oh, did you hear that? Like, you know, the supposed to be like, oh, that's pretty based. Like, he called out the Israeli influencer campaign. He called out one particular influencer. And he didn't even identify the person. He didn't actually get into it. He didn't underscore how widespread it is. He certainly didn't talk about the ideological, the connective tissue of all the billionaires and the influencers and the people in the government and the Israeli government. He's not talking about that at all. He's making ideations. He's hinting. He's talking around it a little bit, stepping just a little bit over the line so that you and I think, oh, JD's so based. He said that about the Israeli influencers. It's total horseshit. He's just trying to walk the line. He's just trying to stay right between to keep us happy and to keep the donors happy, and he can't accomplish either. And it's pretty fun to watch him just twist.
Attacking you how?
Oh, it's social media posts. It's, you know, they're leaking to reporters. They're attacking me obsessively, saying that we should not be negotiating with Iran. We should just keep the military campaign going indefinitely. And that is their explicit position. And coming after me saying that, people have come after me and say that I'm influenced by Qatar, that I'm influenced by.
Are you serious, Hippocratic Oath, or are you just kidding? JD is the main character. We need to support him. Oh, you're saying that's the way he's presenting it. Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty funny, dude. Yeah, he's just like, it's just like, oh, man, they're coming after me, and it's about this, and it is reasonable to maybe want to have some negotiations with Iran, but I totally support the cause, and Iran could never have a nuclear weapon, but there are some influencers, and there's different ideologies. It's just like, bro, like, you should just pick a side, man. Just pick a side. Go all in. Be Rubio, You should just switch up, because we're not buying it at all. And for you to try to pretend to placate us is just like, it's pathetic, bro. It's pathetic. Oh, hey, thank you, Christian Ramirez. Good show. Here for $25. Thank you, brother. Good show. Here's some shekels you've shucked for. God bless. God bless you, brother. Thank you very much for that generous super chat. I appreciate that, homie. That is very cool of you. You guys could all take a lesson from Christian Ramirez there, okay? He's a great example.
Foreign governments that, I take my marching orders from Tucker Carlson, and there's just so much bullshit out there when what I'm actually trying to do
It's a shot at Fuentes, I think.
Is accomplish what the President of the United States told me to accomplish, which is a settlement of this that accomplishes.
No, wait, that's not a shot at Fuentes, because Fuentes wouldn't say that. He would say that because he wouldn't say like because that's not the real, like, that's the people who are critical of him, for not supporting Israel enough. Oh, you take your marching orders from Tucker Carlson, the world's leading anti-Semite or whatever. Yeah, that's what, and they're trying to say that. It's just like, okay, all right.
Accomplishes our objectives. Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. We have the free flow of oil and gas. And like, I should be clear, I don't actually mind. I don't mind that let's say certain elements of the Israeli government want to criticize the deal or have disagreements about the deal. I don't even mind an effort to try to influence, foreign governments try to influence the United States all the time. Israel does it, other countries do it. It's just sort of the nature of the beast.
What do you guys think of that? What's your gut reaction on that? Hey, look, it's all just Israel influences the same way Paraguay influences. Everyone's got, we're the federal government. We got a lot of power. People just influence. They just, it's the game's the game. You know what I mean? Like, and Israel's got their demands, and fucking Azerbaijan has theirs, and it's just sometimes, it's bro. Bro, like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, are you going to seriously compare that to, like, England or something? Or it's just like, if there were, like, wealthy, connected, powerful Englishmen in our government and in our country, who acted on behalf of England on a grand scale, and then there were influencer campaigns, and they were in every major institution, and they put all their political pressure on you to make sure that England got the outcome it wanted. I feel like that would be slightly different than just like, oh yeah, every country's got their influence. I don't know. That's crazy. I forgot what it doesn't matter. No, it wasn't even, he was just saying, it wasn't even really a question. He was just saying, like, just for the record, I don't really have a problem with Israel influencing the government, because, every country influences the government. He's just, he's trying to kind of downplay the breadth and the power of the Israeli lobby inside of our own country. He's just trying to, once again, he's trying to placate everybody and satisfying nobody.
What bothers me is actually when Americans meaning American leadership, allows that influence to affect their judgment and to affect what they are advocating for. That's what really bothers me. People are always going to try to influence the United States of America, whether they're allies of ours or whether they're enemies of ours. But
I actually kind of fundamentally don't necessarily disagree with that. I disagree egregiously with the framing. You're like, yeah, I agree. We should absolutely boot out and deport any of these foreign influences. I agree with you. And it's wrong. And our government is betraying us. You included. And Trump especially. And Marco Rubio. And any one of these other motherfuckers who've taken any of their money. They're all betraying us. Yes, I agree with that. Ted Cruz needs to go. You know, Governor Abbott needs to go. The whole goddamn Senate and Congress need to be flipped. Yeah, I agree. It's treacherous. You're right. It's treason that you're all committing. Yeah, I agree with you. You're right. It is their fault. And yours, fatty.
Again, when I open up the pages of Time magazine and I see that there's a literal foreign influence campaign being funded to tank the very deal that I was pursuing, and oh, by the way, many of the people who were receiving that money were actually attacking me in completely dishonest ways, you know, my response to that is, well, go to hell. I'm going to do what I have to do for the American people. I represent Americans first, and that's the way that I've tried to do this job.
He's campaigning. He's campaigning for the president right now. That's what he's trying to do, like for the presidency, not for Trump, like for his own presidency. He's campaigning. That's what this is. He's trying to like, you know, give us like a nice clip, right? It's like these people are undermining the peace deal and they're saying things about me that just aren't true, you know? And you know what I say to that? Go to hell. Oh, wow. He's tough on Israel. Yeah, real tough, bud. Real fucking tough.
And you know, Joe, the crazy thing is, I'm like, people don't realize this. I'm actually in this, you know, there's this massive pro-Israel, anti-Israel debate in the United States of America. I'm like
wait, so you're aware that there's this massive pro versus anti-Israel debate raging in the country. You're aware of that. Yet, you know, it's a collection of influences while we went to war with Iran. It's like, okay, so you're aware of the debate. Are you aware of the nature of the debate? Are you aware of the positions in the debate? Like, on the left, right, it's like they're definitely critical of the war, but their big issue is Palestine and our compelled assistance with the genocide. On the right, we're not in love with that either, but it's like our compelled compliance with all the other things, including this war. So, did you listen to the conversation, or are you just vaguely aware that it's happening? Like, you can't play it both ways. You can't pay lip service to the fact that the conversation exists and there's a raging debate, and there is, and then also not acknowledge what these, like, and what, we all got it wrong? Everyone's got it wrong? Really? From the outside, you can see it. It's plain as fucking day. And he's just like, it's a collection of influences why us got into the war. But, you know, I will say there is a debate raging about Israel's power in our government. Well, which one is it then? Which one is it, JD?
Reasonable moderate. And I think that's what so many people don't realize is, you know, I've been accused of being an anti-Semite. I've been accused
for what reason?
Quite literally for, I've been accused of trying to, I guess, some people say that I've insulted the Jewish religion, which is insane. Like I have a ton of respect for the Jewish religion. I mean, if you talk about...
What specifically did you say?
I don't know. I've never heard a good...
I have no idea. You know, your guess is as good as mine, Joe. You know, one might say that if you go against them in any way whatsoever, that's the first line of defense, is to call you an anti-Semite. And in fact, I don't want the millstone of this horrible war hung around my neck so that I can never be president, because I know the American people don't want it. But your guess is as good. I can't even imagine what it could be. Whew, I'm so confused. Okay, all right.
Compelling argument for why I'm an anti-Semite, even though I've been accused of being an anti-Semite by many people. But what I say to these guys is, look at public opinion, look at the way young Republicans versus Republicans over the age of 65 approach this issue. Like, right now, Israel is losing the public opinion battle in the United States of America. It is a simple and obvious fact. Donald Trump has said that publicly. It's a simple and obvious fact.
Why do you think that is?
Well, let me finish this point. Okay, my attitude towards this is Israel is an ally. Like France or like the...
You know who else made a very similar argument to this? And, you know, Whatever. He's passed now. Rest in peace. But this is Charlie Kirk. This is like the Charlie Kirk position. This was like the letter that he wrote to like Netanyahu. It's like, you're losing the people. You're losing the kind of PR battle. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean I don't support. It doesn't mean I'm against. It just means you're losing the battle. This is just a fact. It's like, okay, what are the consequences of that, JD? What does that mean? What are you doing about it? Where do you stand on the issue? This is fence riding. This is that same thing. This is enlightened, center-right liberalism. It's the same shit. It's not taking a stand for America's sovereignty. He's not risking his political future. He's not just telling the truth from the mountaintops. He's like, it's just a fact. It's like, yeah, it's an objective like, that's not, we know, man. We know.
United Kingdom, we're going to have disagreements with them. We're going to have agreements with them. There are areas where we're going to have similar interests and areas where our interests are going to diverge. So my approach to this is to say, you know what? When we're partnered, great, let's work together. And we're not, let's just be honest about it. And for that, people attack me for being an anti-Semite or anti-Israel, and they don't see the writing on the wall that I'm actually just the guy advocating for a normal relationship with a normal country that's based around shared interest.
But it's not a normal country, dog. That's the issue, brother. It's not a normal country. It's not a normal relationship. It's not a normal people. It just isn't, man. It's existential. Every goal of the Israeli government in their minds is existential. If we can't keep Palestine and extend into Judea and Samaria, like existential, right? If Iran is allowed to continue power and fund Hezbollah, that's existential for us because it's like it's right on our northern border. So it's like there isn't this. They're not. It's not. You're not operating with people who can be like, oh, okay, well, that's actually a fairly good point, and I'll adjust my perspective now and measure my expectations. No, dude. They're just be like, okay, we can't use you, so you're not the guy now. Moving on. They're not like reasonable. What reasonable people just massacre kids and then celebrate it? What reasonable people shoot pregnant Palestinian women and say, we got 2 for 1? You're not dealing with reasonable people, dude. And furthermore, you are still leaving out the fact that it's not, we're integrated. It's not just a foreign nation. We're not just negotiating with people who, need to come in a private jet and it all happens at the UN. They're all right here. It's all it's everywhere you look, man. Oh, well, geez, if these people would just be kind of more reasonable, I'm not the anti-Semite. Okay, they don't care. They don't care. That translates to you don't mindlessly support every one of our goals, so we're done with you. It's this who'd you say? Yeah, casual mining, lukewarm. It's completely lukewarm. That is a conversation you could have had in the 90s. Maybe. To put that weak, limp-wristed, like kind of, well, hey, look, that is so over. That's so over, dude. Man. Well, there was one guy who had to weigh in on this very subject, and I wanted to play some clips of his because I happen to like his perspective on this situation. And we're just going to scrub a little bit and hear what old Feuntes had to say about his pal JD Vance, because we all know Feuntes loves JD, big fan. And so we'll see what Feuntes thought about how he handled it.
Israel influences our country, so do all our allies and all our enemies. And I don't mind it. He says it's only a problem when American officials listen to it. Really? That's the problem? You don't mind that Israel's trying to influence our government? And then you create a false equivalency and say it's just like every other country. It's just like every other country, and they're in the right to do it, and I understand why they do it, and I don't mind that they do it. The real culprit are our own politicians. Israel's not the culprit. Their agents aren't the culprit. We're the problem. The problem is when American officials listen to them, but I don't mind that they try.
Ryan D4Q, Nick's accuracy in predicting how all this would go is insane. It's nuts. You know, what's he always say? He's got the perspicacity. But it's true, dude. Like, that's the thing. Like, I'm confident putting my support in Nick because it's like, I don't know, wake me up when he's fucking wrong about something. Wake me up when he's wrong. When he's wrong, fine. I haven't seen it yet. I've seen incredible prescience and like a crystal ball-like ability to predict the future. Okay? And an uncompromising commitment to the truth and American sovereignty. If you got something better than that, you let me know. You know, but these fucking chuds, these half-baked chuds who just got here and think they know better. I don't know. Did you predict this, or were you supporting the campaign just like me? And you're going to tell me, oh, actually, you know, there's a microphone bomb. Okay. All right, guys. Unreal.
How could you not mind? How could you not mind? First of all, that's not even true. It's a totally false equivalency. The United Kingdom and France do not influence American policy as much as Israel does. How do we know that? Look at our policy with regard to Europe right now. Are France and the United Kingdom happy about our policy in Iran? No. Are they happy about our policy in Ukraine? No. Are they happy about our policy towards Greenland? No. Are they happy about our trade policy towards Europe? No. Do they perhaps try to influence American policy? If they do, I'm not aware of it because it's either non-existent or it's totally not efficacious.
And imagine if the amount of things that worked against Europe's interests, or the amount of things that like Europe was flat out told no to, or the fact that, you know, Trump kind of has an adversarial relationship with Europe, which I'm not even necessarily opposed to because they need to be whipped into shape. Like like I said, they make our left wing look fucking cute and cuddly. But it's like, maybe not the DSA, but like the establishment. But it's like, imagine if any of those provisions were put on Israel, if any of that resistance was put on Israel. I mean, it's like we bomb the hell out of them to the point where we exhaust all of the munitions in the area. You know, we just empty magazines of tomahawks onto these people, killing civilians, killing children. We take out a THAAD battery from South Korea to put it in the area. It gets destroyed in a week. You know, we mobilize aircraft carriers, just relentlessly bomb, kill the leader, all these people. And the moment Trump's trying to like two-step his way out of there, they all lose their fucking minds. They all lose their collectively. All the influencers get activated. Ted Cruz, they all go nuts. All the usual faces, they all freak out. And JD Vance is saying, oh yeah, you know, Israel influences our country just like any other nation. Really? I've never seen a senator like Ted Cruz go up and say, I want to be the #1 defender of Jamaica in the United States Senate. I wanted to be the #1 defender of fucking Belarus. Never seen that in my life, actually, because that's kind of treason. That's sort of traitorous. But one country can have someone like that, and not only is he not immediately impeached and imprisoned, he's actually celebrated. He's actually gets more donations and gets applause by people. So every government just tries to influence. They all just play the game of politics. Is that really the line you're going with, JD? Unreal.
Did they try to influence the public debate? I'm not even sure that they do. There's no presence from the French or the British in the public conversation. If they are...
Yeah, do you know any French influencers on X that you have to see every single day that have 3 million followers? Where's the French Benny Johnson? Where's the French Captive Dreamer? Where's the French Raw Egg Nationalist? I've never fucking seen one. I don't know of a single one. What are you talking about? Yeah, false equivalency. Yeah.
I don't see it. Were the French and the British able to compel America to give security guarantees to Ukraine? No. Were they able to get Trump to back down from his attempts to acquire Greenland? No. Were they able to get him to reduce trade barriers against the European Union? No. Were they able to get him to back down from his demands for them to increase the proportion of GDP spent on military? No, 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 no. Absolutely not. How about the other way? Did Israel get the United States to bomb Iran's nuclear complex? Yes. Did they get us to participate in a regime change war? Yes. Did they get us to give them $12 billion in aid? Yes. Did they get us to give them 2,000-pound bombs to indiscriminately bomb civilians and enemy combatants alike? Yes.
Did they put a fucking piece of legislation on the goddamn House of Representatives and into the Senate that would permanently merge our intelligence establishments? Yes. Yes. Yeah, it didn't pass. But could you imagine any other country? Imagine that was China. Every boomer would lose their fucking mind. They'd storm the Capitol again. It's crazy. It's like unreal to compare the two. To say that there's any kind of way, it's just like every other government. Is it? Really? So are we going to go to war on behalf of Japan next? Because it certainly seems like they have a special relationship and a special degree of leverage in our country. You know, I guess call me a crazy conspiracy theorist, call me an anti-Semite, but it does seem like it's a unique relationship, JD.
Did they get us to oust the faculty at Columbia, Harvard, and UPenn? Yes. Did they get us to take away visas and citizenship from people that protested Israel's war? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. And by the way, who owns the conservative media? Is it the French and the British, or is it Israel-aligned people? Rupert Murdoch owns News Corp. Rupert Murdoch owns Fox News, Wall Street Journal, New York Post. Who's he aligned with?
Not to mention the people in the left-wing papers also are like not really all that critical of this war. Like when it looked like we were actually going to get out of it, I would read articles in the Washington Post, in the New York Times, people who made it their job to undermine what Trump was doing, saying, hey, listen, you know, maybe, I guess that does align with it, but aren't they supposed to be anti-war? It's like maybe we actually should maybe we shouldn't get out of this war. You know, there's consequences to the regime staying in power, and it's like this is the left. So it's not even just Fox News. It's not even just, you know, Newsmax or any of that stuff. It's also on the mainstream left, like the paper of record, the New York Times, the Washington Post. You see it on like, you know, like what's it? Like any of those like cable news on the left too, the left, you know, but like it's not, it's like really, it's all just the same, huh? It's all just, okay. Yeah. I don't fucking think it is.
He's aligned with Bibi Netanyahu. Larry Ellison acquired TikTok, CBS, CNN, Warner Brothers, Paramount Plus. Who's he aligned with? He was born in America. He's aligned with Israel.
He's not even aligned with Israel. Isn't he like good personal friends with Netanyahu? Doesn't he take like vacations together? Like together? Not even like doing a favor. Like they're on vacation together. Their family and his family. It's like, yeah, it's all just the same. It's all just, we're all, you know, everyone's just vying for influence. You know, we're powerful. Okay. All right, dude. Like, go away. Like, don't even, just become a fucking neocon. Like, literally, just lie. Be Marco Rubio. Trying to play both sides is just insane. It's just crazy. Target 8059. Washington Post are establishment liberals who are aligned with Newsom and the DNC, but the Free Palestine leftists in turn align with them in DEI and ICE. So yeah, no, I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, yes, but I'm just saying that it's like the influence goes beyond just conservative, like right-wing media. It's like, yeah, it's also on the left too. And this is all just really, it seems bigger than that, JD. It seems much, much bigger than that. And also look at the fucking results. Hey, but everyone, I don't even mind. Okay.
Who's in the administration? Is it a lot of French and British? Or is it Jared Kushner, Howard Lutnick, Steve Witkoff, Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, who are all loyal to Israel? Our ambassador to France is an agent of Israel. Do you know who our ambassador to France is? Jared Kushner's father, Charles Kushner. You know what his priorities are as our ambassador to France? Number one, fight anti-Semitism. So it's a...
I haven't, you know, since all the evidence that came out about the Charlie Kirk assassination, I really haven't seen the chuds around. I haven't seen the Wignats around much. Where'd they all go? Whatever happened? Whatever happened to Nick's a twink fed catboy? Huh? Yeah, interesting.
False equivalency. Do all countries try to influence American politics? Ostensibly. But the bigger question is who's actually doing it? It's Israel. Who among our allies is influencing America? It's Israel. It's not the European Union. It's not Ukraine. It's not South Korea or Japan or India. Look at what we've done to India. In the first term, Trump renamed our Pacific Command to the Indo-Pacific in light of increasing ties with New Delhi. In Trump 2, they changed it back. They said we're back to the Pacific Command because India wouldn't stop buying Russian oil and gas. So we're willing to piss off South Korea. We're willing to piss off Japan and India and Europe and Canada and Mexico and Colombia and all of them. We are never willing to piss off Israel.
You had it like, you had like even the kind of like Orrin McIntyre was observing that, like, you know, look at all the influencers losing their mind, they're throwing a fit, and, you know, the lack of gratitude because they were told no one time. Like even a guy like that, you know, he's like observing this. So it's such an insult to us, to me, to you, to the country, and just like also just such a fool's errand. Like, did you really think that this was gonna fly? Like, did you really think you're gonna go there and spin this centrist, I'm the moderate guy bullshit, and what we would believe you? We would be like, well, actually, yeah, I think I will vote for this treacherous, like, you know, elusive, what even are you fucking guy. Yeah, oh, you're a never Trumper. Now you're his biggest supporter. Now you're based. Yeah, okay. You're the guy before the war. You're like, we need to be really forceful with Iran, talking about war, bombing. And now you're like, I'm just the moderate. You know, they're calling me the okay. Listen, bro. We know you're just. Where's the wind going? Uh-oh. I might not be president. I better go out there and do damage control and pretend like I can put. Look, guys, you have to understand. It's all just, you know, it's just influence. You know, it's like there's this like, all right, okay. You can't have it both ways, man. You can't have it both ways. You can, you know, you should just pick a lane. Just pick a lane, because then at least you can. Someone can do something with that. You know, if you just become a Zionist and you're like, look, through this conflict, I actually learned that, you know what, they are a huge threat, and just go all in. I mean, I wouldn't be happy if you did that, but I'm just saying, at least for your own purposes, you should do that. Or you should become like a real Israel critic. Just align with Joe Kent. You know, you guys can. Anyway. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of Right Wing Pulse, folks. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Thank you very much. You guys are a real fun chat. And look, it does seem like the guys who hate me for liking Feuntes don't really hang around here anymore, so that's good. But you guys are really cool for hanging out with me, so I hope you guys had a fun time watching this show. Check me out on Tuesday, the MFR podcast, live every Tuesday at 8 Eastern, and then this show, of course. I went a little bit late today. I apologize for that. I will be back at the normal scheduled time of 8 p.m. next Sunday night. But y'all have a good one, and I'll see you on the next show. Peace out.
Shooters, I said, no. Compare the proportion of school shooters that are white versus violent criminals that are black, because that was the basis of the monologue.
I mean, Keir Starmer's not.
Well, he did make a call about this.
No, Keir Starmer is every bit as enslaved as Donald Trump is. It is illegal. It is a crime for which you can be arrested in Britain right now, criticizing Israel.
I want to cut my off and scramble my brain with fucking fluoride. I'm gonna win because Netflix is worth $3 trillion. I can't believe the dollars are this high.
It's a society that hates God. It's a society where the family is completely deconstructed and destroyed. It's a society that hates Nazis but loves communism.
You're always confronted with the same stupid question. You know, does Israel have a right to exist? Does Israel have a right to exist? The real question at this point is whether the rest of the world has an obligation to put an end to this.